like to welcome everyone to this City Council meeting, February 18th, 2025. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Okay. So we always like to kick our council meetings off with some good stuff. Once again, Fort Mill High School has produced some champions, so we would like to recognize those folks, and I will do it at the podium. Thank you, Charles.
Y'all are getting used to this, aren't you?
We're raising winners at Fort Mill High School
That's
now, I'm
right.
telling you. Okay. So our first proclamation is recognizing the Fort Mill High School girls swim team as the 5A state champions. Whereas the Fort Mill High School girls swim team has achieved a significant milestone for Fort Mill swimming. In October of 2024, the talented young women secured Fort Mill High School's third consecutive state title, proudly earning the title of 2024 5A South Carolina State Champions. And whereas the City of TGK and the City Council wish to commend each swimmer for their exemplary achievements, along with coaching staff for their leadership to their fellow Yellow Jackets and Fort Mill High School. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we, the City Council of TGK, hereby congratulate and recognize the Fort Mill High School girls swim team for their remarkable accomplishments in being named the 2024 5A South Carolina State Champions. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Girls, you may go ahead and go sit back down. Turner and Dominic.
Hang on. Got to get it centered, because if I don't, Tim's going to complain at me. Okay, we got it. Okay. You guys got enough medals? I bet you go off with a medal check. You wear those all the time? Like in the shower too? Okay. Hope it'll turn into a Olympic. Yeah, there you go. All right. So we have another proclamation tonight for Fort Mill High School. Whereas Turner Wyand, okay, Wyand, just had to check pronunciation there, so I got that. Has been a significant contribution to the Fort Mill High School boys swim team since he joined in 7th grade high school, as he has earned varsity letters all 5 seasons and holds the school record in the 200-yard medley relay, 100-yard backstroke, and 400-yard free relay. Whereas since 1980, South Carolina High School League has published the state record book a compilation of all-time outstanding individual, team, and coaching achievements in sports for boys and girls. Whereas in October of 2024, Mr. Wind, right? Wind, like wind it up. Okay, wind it up. Mr. Wind took home 4 gold medals in the 200-yard medley relay, 50-yard freestyle, 100-yard backstroke, 400-yard freestyle relay during the South Carolina's 5A Division II state meet. Wow, that's a whole lot of swimming. Mr. Wind achievements assisted the team in earning second place at the state championships meet, and individually, he joined only 10 other swimmers since 1995 in the South Carolina High School League Palmetto's finest record book. Whew, that's a big accomplishment. That's a big one. Okay. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we, the City Council of the City of TDK, do hereby congratulate and recognize Turner Wind for his tremendous accomplishments as an individual swimmer and a member of the Fort Mill High School boys swim team. All right. Let me just do the other real quick, and then we'll get both of them and move it out of the way. Okay. Just hang on 1 second. That's a lot of swimming. You did that all in one night? Hey, you're going to be on the front of a Wheaties box in a minute. Wow. Okay. So this proclamation recognizes Fort Mill High School swimmer Dominic Impens. Did I do that right? Okay. See, he didn't have that A through in there, and that's what it was. All right. Since 1980, the South Carolina High School League has published the state record book, a compilation of all-time outstanding individual, team, and coaching achievements in sports for boys and girls. Whereas in October 2024, Dominic Impens took home 4 gold medals in the 200-yard medley relay, 100-yard freestyle, 100-yard breaststroke, 400-yard freestyle relay during the South Carolina 5A Division II state meet. Whereas Mr. Impens' achievements led him to join only 10 other swimmers since 1995 in the state in South Carolina High School League Palmetto's finest record book. Whereas during the state championships meet, Dominic surpassed the previous state record in the 100-yard backstroke at an astonishing time of 56.15 seconds, while also breaking the school's records. And whereas Mr. Impens was named a Scholastic All-American by USA Swimming, an honor awarded to just 1,790 student athletes nationwide. The recognition celebrates those who excel both academically and athletically, with Mr. Impens being one of the 24 students from South Carolina to earn the accolade in 2024. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we, the City Council of the City of TDK, do hereby congratulate and recognize Dominic Impens for his monumental accomplishments as an individual swimmer and a member of the Fort Mill High School boys swim team. Whew. Just reading that made me sick. All right. All right, one more. So now we have, oh, hang on, I'm getting backwards here. That's 2, 3, 4. All right, got it. Now, the person that got all these folks here. So this is a proclamation recognizing Fort Mill High School swim coach Cindy Van Buskirk. There we go. As Coach of the Year. Whereas Cindy Van Buskirk has devoted an impressive 17 years to coaching the Fort Mill High School girls and boys swim teams, leading as the head coach for 12 of those years. Whereas under Coach Van Buskirk's guidance, the girls swim team has previously won 2 state championship titles and captured the Regional 3 5A champions for 16 consecutive years, showcasing her ability to foster excellence. Whereas in acknowledgement of her remarkable contributions to the sport, the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association recognized and honored Ms. Van Buskirk as Swim Coach of the Year in 2017, inducted her into the South Carolina Swim Coach Hall of Fame in 2021, and named her the 2023 Girls Swim Coach of the Year. Whereas Cindy Van Buskirk's unwavering commitment and mentorship have led the Fort Mill High School girls swim team to victory in the 2024 Division II Girls Swim Team State Championships for the third consecutive year, highlighting her consistent ability to inspire success. And whereas the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association has honored Cindy as the 2024 Coach of the Year, acknowledging her outstanding achievements, unwavering commitment, and exemplary leadership at Fort Mill High School and within the sport. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we, the city of TDK, extend our heartfelt congratulations to and commend Cindy Van Buskirk for her outstanding service and commitment to excellence in coaching, her leadership, and the significant impact she has made to this community and Fort Mill High School. Yes, ma'am. You guys are seniors? Juniors. So we get to see y'all again next year doing this.
I wanted to thank the TKK City Council for this recognition. My swimmers greatly appreciate the recognition. It is very special to them, and it's very special to me tonight to be recognized by the TKK City Council as the Coach of the Year. And I did want to say a little highlight that, yes, Turner and Dominic are only juniors, and I get them back next year. But I also wanted to acknowledge my outstanding coaching staff, which quite honestly, I could not do it without them. It is assistant coach Michelle Case. Where'd you go, Doug? And assistant coach Doug Fleck. And I wanted to give a personal congratulations to them as well. We look forward to seeing you around town, and hopefully you'll recognize some faces and congratulate the swimmers. And maybe we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Hello, Council. Thank you for having me. Won't take up too much of your time here to present the audit results of the audit for the TDK as of September 30, 2024. Have a presentation of slides here for you so we don't have to go through the whole 60 pages audit booklet. It gets pretty cumbersome. So just going to go through this real quick. If there's any questions, please let me know. But again, just hitting the highlights here of the audit. We do want to thank the staff for all of their hard work during the audit process. We're here for 3 days on site, a lot more work off site, but we're asking for a lot of information and a lot of detail within those 3 days on site and off site as well. So we greatly appreciate all of their hard work in getting us everything that we need in order to put together the audit. So as I mentioned, the audit here, we're going to start with the independent auditor's report. This is the report that the independent auditor gives to the city of TKK based on the audit. It details management's responsibility, which is the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements. Management's responsibility is the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relevant to the preparation of the financial statements. It also details the auditor's responsibility, which is to express an opinion on the financial statements based on our audit. We do conduct our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. And we obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. And we offer an auditor's opinion. We issued an unmodified opinion, a clean audit opinion that is the best opinion that the city can receive. It basically means that the city's financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. So Very good, no material weaknesses, and again, books were in great order. Audit went very smoothly. Within governmental auditing, we have two sets of financial statements within the audit. We have our government-wide statements, and then we have our fund financial statements. Government-wide is on the full accrual basis of accounting. The fund financial statements are on the modified accrual basis of accounting. So for our governmental activities, I'll just run through this real quick. Statement of net position, total assets on the governmental activities is $51.2 million. Of that, capital assets $34.3 million, and cash and current assets $16.9 million. Total liabilities $28 million. The majority of the total liabilities, $9 million in net pension liability and $16.9 million in debt. So we do have a positive net position on the governmental activities of $24.9 million, and of that 15% is unrestricted. Statement of activities, this is our revenues and our expenses. Total revenue for the year, $20.7 million. Total expenses, $17.2 million. So we did have an increase of $3.5 million on the governmental activities. On the business type activities, this is our utility. So you can see statement of net position, total assets $22.6 million, capital assets $18.6 million, and then cash and current assets $4 million, excuse me. Total liabilities $14.3 million, $2.25 million of that is net pension liability, and $11.2 million in debt. Net position, total net position positive $8.8 million, and then we have unrestricted negative 8% on that net position. Statement of activities, again, are revenues and expenses. Total revenues $7.8 million, total expenses $7.9 million. So we had a decrease in net position of approximately $93,000 for the year. So as I mentioned before, you have two sets of financial statements. We're moving on to the fund financial statements, and that's your governmental funds, primarily general fund, and then you have your special revenue funds as well. But on your general fund, total fund balance increase for the year of $556,000 to $12.4 million at year end. Unassigned fund balance is $8.5 million, and that is 52% of actual general fund expenditures. You always, really want to pay attention and don't want to get below 3 months of operating expenses with your fund balance. So we are above that, so that's very good. Breaking down our general fund revenues and expenditures, a lot of numbers on this page, I apologize, but total revenues $16.7 million, taxes $8.4 million of that, and then the difference, fine, fees, licenses, and permits of $6.6 million. That is a $597,000 decrease, 3.5% from 2023. And then we were actually over budget on that, $773, due primarily to other revenues being $940 more than anticipated. Total expenditures are $16.5 million, broken down into our categories there: $1.2 million general government, $608,000 development services, $3.9 million police, $1.1 million public works, $2.4 million fire service, $1.6 million parks and recreation, $2.2 million non-departmental, $1.8 million capital outlay, and $1.7 million debt service. A lot of expenditures there. The $864,000 increase from 2023, that's a 5% increase. In this case, due primarily to increase in police expenditures, and then $252,000 over budget on the total expenditures. Proprietary fund, revenues and expenses. Again, just breaking this down a little bit more, total revenues $7.7 million, broken down $2.9 million from water, $3.3 million sewer, 776 stormwater, $827,000 other revenues. Had a $597,000 increase from the previous year, 8.3%. $242,000 under budget, primarily due to tap fees and impact fees being lower than budgeted amounts. Total expenses $7.9 million, broken down into $1.2 million water purchased, $1 million sewer treatment, $1.2 million depreciation, $241,000 in interest, and $4.3 million in other expenses. That is an increase of $1.2 million, 17.7% from 2023. 149,000 under budget, primarily due to budgeted interest expense being under the budget amount, or I'm sorry, actual expense being under the budgeted amount. Just some other significant items for the audit. As I've always mentioned, GASB 68 and 71, net pension liability 2024 is approximately $11.3 million. That represents the unfunded portion of pension benefits owed to members, and that liability is determined by PEBA and provided to the city. So that is a quick overview of 60 some odd pages in this booklet that I'm sure you all have either read front to back or will read. Any questions on the audit, on the numbers, anything?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, sir.
Could you explain the difference between the net balance and the 15% unrestricted that was in one of the early slides? I thought there was a 24.5 million.
Let's see. Are we looking at possibly this one, net
Yes.
position?
Yes, thank you.
Position? Yes. So our net position is essentially, if you're thinking at it from a business perspective, that's our retained earnings. That's once we have our assets less our liabilities, that's our retained earnings. But in this case, in governmental, it's called net position. So 24.9 million is the difference between our assets and our liabilities, theoretically for future use. And so of that 24.9 million, 15% is unrestricted. The majority of that other amount, 85%, the majority of that is going to be net investment in capital assets. And so that's our capital assets, our buildings, infrastructure, all of that net of the debt related to that.
So the unrestricted, would that be cash on hand?
It's not necessarily cash on hand, but it is technically, there's some other current assets that would be included in that as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can you go back to the slide where you had the difference in revenue and expenses?
Yes, ma'am. So we have under the fund or the government-wide? Or the
Government-wide.
Yes, ma'am. So government-wide, on the right-hand side, we have our statement of activities for our government-wide, and this is really going to be under your government-wide. That's going to be your governmental funds on the full accrual basis of accounting. So that's going to be your general fund and then all your special revenue funds put together. And so for that, you had an increase in net position of approximately $3.5 million for the year.
And that's in revenue.
That's that's the net of the revenue and the expenses. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then for the proprietary fund, the same thing over there on the right-hand side. And so that one almost netted out to zero. So revenue 7.8, expenses 7.9.
Could you explain the 11 million in pensions? I saw the statement there about unfunded. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
explain that term to me?
Yes, sir. So GASB 6871 at this point came about 11, 12 years ago. In governmental accounting, what they decided, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board decided was you had municipalities, Chicago, Detroit, where you heard about pensions and, being underwater. So what the Standards Board decided was that governments would now put the unfunded portion of their state retirement on their books. So, for instance, before you didn't really know what that was. And so those numbers come from PEBA. That information comes from PEBA. They have actuarial evaluations, and they have that on their audit report. And so what you'll see really there is under your governmental activities, for instance, that's $9 million. And then on your business type activities, that's $2.25 million. So that's where you're getting the 11 million unfunded portion.
Okay. That seems like more of an exercise in transparency.
Absolutely, yes, sir. So you can't pay that down. You can't send a check to PEBA and pay that down.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for homework, by the way.
sir. Absolutely. Light reading material.
Can you go back and restate what you had stated, your opinion of the report and the audit in general as far as the city is concerned?
Yes, ma'am. So ideally, what you're really looking at in your audit is you're looking at your auditor's opinion. And so that's the opinion of the independent auditor on the reasonableness of the financial statements. And so our opinion is unmodified. There's no modification of opinion. Again, unmodified is the best opinion that the city can receive. And so, essentially, if you have an unmodified opinion, you're stating that the financial statements are fairly stated.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you. Have a great evening.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. I'd like to talk about the first quarter, and also I want to mention all the financial statements, audited financial statements are online, the P&Ls are online, and the budgeted book is online too, so it's all transparent. So the first quarter of this year, on the general fund, the revenues were $2.605 million, which is 15% of our budget. Most of our revenues for the general fund come in the second and third quarter of the year, the property taxes, et cetera. The general fund expenses, they're at $4,333,205, which is 25% of the budget, which is they're right online. They're on target for the year. So it's early in the year, so it's hard to analyze. The next fund is the beach and swim. There's not much going on there. Revenue is $328. The expenses were $16,000. It's early in the year. Memberships don't start until January, so there's nothing to discuss there really until the next quarter. TCUD, everything's on target. The revenue is at 24% of budget. The expenses are 20%. Of course, the revenue picks up in the second and third quarter of the year when spring and summer come. Stormwater, the revenue is $109,339, and the expenses are $327,513 early in the year. Stormwater revenue comes in the second and third quarter of the year. Events, tourism, and hospitality, it's early in the year. Events is $180,482 at the first quarter. Expenses are at $54,000. Again, it's early in the year to have it totally analyzed properly. And hospitality taxes at the first quarter is at $90,618 of revenue, which is 22% of revenue, and that picks up as the year goes on. And the expenses are at $214,184, which is 51% of the revenue. So just a quick overview of the first quarter. You have the P&Ls. You have it online. So if there's any questions, email, et cetera, any questions about the line items, et cetera?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you for putting this together, and I know we've asked you to do this on a quarterly basis. I think it will help all of us kind of track throughout the year.
But the second and third quarter will be more expansive once we get into the year.
Correct, yes.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. Mr. Funderburk, if you will, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For the city manager's report tonight, I'm going to start with the fire department. Last week, they were able to swear in Jamie Johnson as a firefighter. Welcome to Mr. Johnson to our team. Also recognize the promotion of engineer Keith Davis, and they were able to highlight several members' achievements in obtaining certifications during that ceremony last Thursday. Throughout the next month, the department will be conducting safety inspections and pre-fire planning for all businesses, and will also start hydrant flow testing in March. On Saturday, February 22nd, obviously this Saturday, the fire department will be holding Firehouse Story Time. Glad to get that going again. And that's going to be over at Station 1 on Stonecrest, where our firefighters are going to read a story to the kiddos and then talk about some fire safety tips. There's always great attendance there, so we look forward to seeing the folks come out and visit with our fire department this Saturday for that. In our utility department, so as part of the ARPA funds that were allotted to them for the upgrades on the treatment plants, we did get the GMP back from our contractor, which is Harper, and that's the guaranteed maximum price. On the upgrades, costs were higher than what we were looking for. So we're spending this time renegotiating with them, getting them to sharpen the pencils a little bit more to get it down to the levels that we need it to be at. So that's still ongoing, but as we've got more news from there, we'll obviously be sharing it. And then they're going to be doing an upgrade to lift station 17, which is in Seven Coves, and that is scheduled for the week of March the 3rd. So they're still getting after it pretty good there. In development services, staff is continuing to work through comments with the developer regarding Main Street and are waiting the resubmittal for the subdivision on Dam Road that's formerly known as Lakewood. They're looking to change that name. We are anticipating receiving the preliminary plat for Main Street this week, and assuming all the comments from our technical team review have been addressed, staff will then take it. The next steps are to take that to Planning Commission for formal approval, and at that point, we'll be ready to issue permits for them to begin. So getting close there. By the end of the week, if you've driven over on I'll say the left side of Walmart, you've seen some Connex boxes and a construction dumpster all fenced in. Walmart will have they'll have their permit and ready to begin construction on renovation plans, which primarily is going to increase the capacity on their online order side, as well as giving a facelift to the front exterior of the building. So that process is going to get underway here pretty soon. The business license portal on our Evolve platform is live now. And the next portal will be code enforcement, and we hope to have that up and running and live by the spring. And that'll help us better track repeat offenders, things like that, be able to make notes in the system as to when we make contact, what the resolutions were, and things of that nature. So that's, Nick, is that the final? Okay, so there will be one more module after that that'll involve the planning and subdivision stuff, but this is the last real big one that we were looking forward to getting going. The survey for the comprehensive plan update went live on February 5th and will continue through the beginning of March. So if you're listening or watching at home and you haven't taken the time to take the survey yet, please do so. We want a lot of community input. And later on tonight, we'll be talking a little bit more about that. At your prior council meeting, residents spoke during public comments about the eroding of a stream in Serenity Point and the deposit of sedimentation in the lake. Even though we have previously inspected this with former staff and engineering and DHEC and third-party consultants, staff did email the residents January 24th. We have re-inspected the creek. Took a little bit longer than what we had hoped. We had our stormwater manager had injured himself and was not able to come to work for a week or so. But he was able to get down into the creek, took some updated photos and things of that nature. We have sent all of that back down to SCDES, the Department of Environmental, since DHEC is no longer and they split up. They're reviewing that information for us, and then are going to may come up and do a site visit. They have not confirmed that yet or not, but they are going to give us a response. We just don't have an ETA on that response yet. As soon as we do, we'll communicate that back to the residents, came and spoke to council, as well as share it with council. The stream bed is 100% on private property, whether it be HOA, private residence, or Duke Energy property. And it's controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers. So there's a lot going on with that, but yeah, we did ask DES to look back into that for us once again, and we're anxiously awaiting their report and findings so we can get that back out to everybody. I know that there's, at least is what's been shared with me, there seems to be some concerns from some in that area of the community about Main Street coming in because that stream actually starts at the smaller of the two Walmart retention ponds. A lot of people don't know that there is a second one. It's basically right behind our fire station. Everybody can see the large one from Stonecrest Boulevard. The other one's tucked away back behind the fire station. And that's really where that stream kind of starts, flows through a chunk of Main Street, and then through Trinity, and then goes under a culvert, and then eventually makes its way to the lake after it goes under Stonecrest Boulevard. So understand those concerns. I do want to let everybody know when Main Street does get started, they will have their own water quality pond. They won't be using the one that is currently out there now for Trinity, and their stormwater infrastructure isn't tied into Trinity's. So, but our staff is well aware of concerns that came during the Trinity development, and they will be on top of the developer throughout their process until they've reached stabilization as they're required to under the regulations. Parks and Recreation, we're still accepting registration for juniors baseball, which is our 13 and 14-year-olds, until March 1st. But outside of that, we've wrapped up all of our registration. And for this spring, we've got 2,400 kiddos participating with us in our various programs. So another big year. We're down a little bit from last spring, but that's okay. We've got a lot. So kudos to our staff, Dustin and his staff for working through that process, and hopefully the weather will start cooperating, and they'll actually get some practices in before the season starts. The Beach and Swim Center pool registration is currently open. Our events calendar has been released with dates and lineups for our Best Damn Food Festival, our concert series, and Catawba Fest. Caroline was able to actually get some printed calendars, so we've got those. She's got those spread around in strategic locations. So if you don't want to go to our website and you want something you can hang on the fridge, we've got those too. We encourage everybody to mark your calendars. She's got another banner year teed up for us with our events, so we're excited to get those going. And last in this department, certainly not least, the soccer fields at Catawba Park have officially been completed and are open, and we're anticipating reimbursement back from insurance, I would say any day now. We've gotten everything finally turned in on that, so we're in good shape there. While I'm on that, I do want to mention we are still going through the process with FEMA. I can tell you, having sat in on a number of those meetings with Chief Hasty, who's leading the charge for us, and Dustin Overton, it is an experience that is not for the faint of heart by any stretch of the imagination. But we'll have a lot of reimbursements coming our way based on staff time spent and some other impacts from Tropical Storm Helene that'll be coming our way. Hopefully, after they do a site inspection coming up next month, we'll have a little bit better ETA as to when that reimbursement will come from FEMA. But it is definitely a lengthy process for sure. In Public Works, the sign replacement program that we've been going through for the year, the final phase of that should be completed by late March, early April. So appreciate our Public Works staff taking care of that on top of all the other things they're doing. And based on the winter forecast that is scheduled, we'll begin treating roads tomorrow morning first thing, and they've already got their schedules lined up to make sure we've got folks here overnight Wednesday night going into Thursday morning, try to keep the commutes as safe as we can given the weather that's coming in. And then finally, committees, commission, and boards applications are open until February 29th. We've got a lot for EDC, not a lot for some of the others. So if you're interested in getting involved with the city, please sign up. The link's pretty easy. We've got it on the website. And if you've got questions, you can email Casey directly. If you've got problems with the application or something like that, she'll guide you through it. But we look to bring the slate of candidates to council at your March meeting for considerations. That way they can get started up in April. So, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr.
Unless there's
Funderburk.
any questions on any of that.
Anybody have any questions? No. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I thank you for braving the FEMA disaster. It is, I know firsthand, it is quite laborious and tedious, to say
If
the
you
least.
want to see patience, watch Chief Hasty during those meetings. It is amazing how patient he is with that process.
I can only imagine what our friends in Western Carolina are going through right now.
No doubt.
prayers for them. Okay. Moving on. We'll go with our commission reports. There he is. Mr. Miko, if you would, please.
Good evening, council.
Good evening, sir.
Hey, so I just want to give you an update for the last few months for the Planning Commission. We did not have a meeting in January, but that gave us a bit of time to recover from a very involved and in-depth evaluation of the Marina Overlay District. So first thing I want to hit off on there is I want to recognize my fellow commissioners here and the hard work that they put into on this. So following the limited amendments that were made to the district this time last year involving the removal of the hotel use from the district, you asked us to review the district in its entirety to ensure it still aligns with the visions of both the community and council. This commission here has put in a tremendous number of hours in studying and understanding the community vision. And there were definitely at least a couple times when the commissioners here kind of began questioning what they got into as the hour hand started hitting bigger and bigger numbers at a few of our meetings. But we had some great, very valuable interaction with citizens as well, which greatly complemented the already diverse opinions and perspectives of my fellow commissioners here. And to help truly understand the vision, each commissioner here participated in a site visit to understand the benefits and the challenges, and to really try to visualize what could be for that site in terms of both opportunity and challenges to be considered. And then lastly, before doing a line-by-line edit of the entire article, the commission worked together to develop an online survey to expand our reach for public input, which garnered, 1,037 responses. What did Deer Survey get, like 800? But we're not quite done. We'll discuss all the comments and questions that will be raised this evening at our public hearing that we're going to have in just a few minutes. And of course, anything else comes in over the next couple weeks, we'll be discussing at our March meeting and then work up our final recommendations for y'all. I just want you to know that, as we get into it in the hearing here in the next few minutes, when you do get our recommendations, expected to be next month, this commission worked very hard to consider the opportunities as well as the different perspectives across our great city. And every single red line and every single revision you see in there had some pretty significant detailed conversation and debate. Again, just want to recognize my colleagues here and the hard work that they did on this. Also a big shout out to the community for their input here and online. We had some very full commission meetings as well. So it was great to see. I thought we had a lot of good input. All right, moving on. In February, we had a conversation on a proposed amendment to the PDD for Main Street. We're going to be seeing we'll be seeing that here shortly. Honestly, much of that time was really orienting the commission to the project, since most of the commission, I think everybody except for me, was not on it when that PDD was developed in 2022. So it was a lot of understanding what the requirements were and then looking back over the project and kind of understand the changes in the vision there. We also had a brief conversation regarding the upcoming comprehensive plan development. We'll be doing a more in-depth briefing on this in March, but we are ready to, kick off our piece here in the steering committee. I understand the initial plan is for that committee to have 2 members of the Planning Commission on it. So from the commission, Mr. Raymond Hale and Mr. Thomas Goyani have volunteered to serve in that role and are ready to get moving on it as soon as we have the rest of the committee put together. So with that, I'll hush up and answer any questions you got for us.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Miko? No? Okay.
Good deal. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Mr. Cawthon, if you would, please, sir.
The Economic Development Committee met on Monday, January the 27th, and finalized the next TDK Business Connect meeting, which will have a guest speaker on Wednesday, March 19th, and that speaker will be Ms. Holly Simpson. So she'll come to give her insight to folks that attend, feedback, answer questions, and the committee discussed slightly changing the format, allowing a little more interaction at the beginning, as far as meet and greet and forming connections, and then having the speaker start about 20 or 30 minutes in, instead of doing it at the end as before. Committee also discussed having welcome wagons for new businesses, looking at sort of building a good contact list from those Business Connect meetings, seeing who would like to join and who would like to participate, particularly with Main Street and other developments upcoming in the city. And the committee also unanimously agreed that they would like to have a council liaison at their upcoming meetings. So I did want to share that with council.
Thank you, sir. Stormwater, Ms. Heather Jones, please.
Thank you. Stormwater Committee met on February 5th. We had a full quorum, including our council representative, council liaison, and our city liaison. And we also had one member of the public attend, which was really exciting for all of us as a recently reformed committee. We reviewed the proposed changes from the first reading that was sent to us for the ordinance that oversees stormwater, and everybody was very much pleased with what we saw. We caught one typo, but it looks like it's already been caught, which was that it had the staggers only had 2 and 3 members listed instead of 3 and 4. But it looks like in the second read it's already been corrected, but just to bring that to the attention to make sure. We spoke with our city liaison about what it would look like with some of the new changes with regards to removing the appeals component that previously existed for the committee, which we were all agreed was not something we felt was appropriate for the direction that this seems to be going. And adding in the greenway and tree monitoring and what that would look like, what we would like to see need as the committee to be able to assist him in that capacity, what rules we would need to follow. So just sort of working through and planning what we need in terms of information. The first request was, can we get a map of all the greenways? Because some of us aren't 100% sure. So things like that were discussed. Also talking about the educational role of the committee in terms of being able to support our city staff member with what he would like to see and what we can do to provide that information. So that's something that will be brought up in future meetings, and we're going to be doing some research on the Fort Mill School District's curriculum they provide to other stormwater departments at other cities, neighboring cities. And then a request was given to us from council through the city, which was that we need to correct the staggering. Currently we have 7 members. 1 is finished this year. 6 still have another year on their term, which obviously doesn't match the ordinance. So myself and another member have volunteered to either resign early and reapply for another 2-year term, or if council wishes to just extend our term an additional year to get us on the correct offset. Because I know we do have somebody who's applied for the 1 seat that is coming open naturally. So if you could let us know which way, and we'll either reapply or be happy to continue on. So whichever way that is best handled from an administrative side. And thank you to council for having Councilmember Heislett there as our liaison. Our one citizen request actually had to do with stormwater fees, which isn't our committee's purview. That's more at everything, but by having him there, we were able to get an immediate answer for that question and connection versus having to go and play a game of phone tag and get people drawn in. And we do appreciate that. We've also set an actual meeting schedule moving forward. So the second Mondays, we will be meeting at 6 p.m. So March 10th will be our next meeting in the large conference room for anybody who wishes to come and give us feedback about things they'd like to see or questions they have. We always welcome that. It was exciting to have somebody there besides us, and she sat very patiently and listened to us have a lot of very interesting discussions. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, but if not, we'll keep things moving along.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
One thing, Charlie, for the, can we just do an extension? Is that an option, or would we have to have them resign or reapply?
You can do that. My plan was for council to cover that during your March appointments for the committees. So whether it's extending some of them by an additional year, we can sort through that.
Great.
Yep,
Thank
not
you.
a problem.
Just let us know, so if we need to put in applications, we'll reapply if that's the way you want to go, or we're happy to just have it extended.
Yeah, you won't have to
Okay.
reapply,
Thank
for
you.
sure. We'll get that sorted. We don't have to mess with the application again.
Okay. That is it for our committee reports. Now we're going to have our public hearing with, in regards to amendment to the zoning code ordinance 77 as it relates to the Marina Overlay District. If you folks would join us up front.
right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with 6 members present, we do have a quorum of the Planning Commission. As you're aware, we have 2 public hearings lined up for this evening. We'll start by opening the first hearing on a proposed amendment to the Plan Development District standards for development referred to as Main Street, the change of phasing. Do I have it backwards on you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I guess I could have
Marina
looked at the
overlay
monitor.
first. Yeah, we're gonna do Marina overlay first.
All right, we're going to open it up for the Marina Overlay District then first. So we're going to open this hearing with an introduction first by Mr. Nick Coffin.
Yeah, so I'll give a brief background and also want to highlight some of the red line changes that are under consideration tonight. So hotels were removed as a permitted use at the 2024 February council meeting, so exactly a year ago. Council then directed the Planning Commission to evaluate the Marina Overlay District in its entirety. And after spending the better part of a year working on the red lines, Planning Commission came to a consensus with the red lines that are in council's packet tonight and also on our website online for anyone that would like to follow along. What I want to do is just go over a few of the major changes that are being proposed by the Planning Commission. So the first one is a mixed-use district would now have to be rezoned. There was a previous process where the Planning Commission could, if it met certain conditions, could go ahead and approve that without any council action. No new townhomes or standalone multifamily would be permitted. The maximum building size for a restaurant would be 4,000 square feet. Outdoor areas for seating and live entertainment must be at least 200 feet from residential zoning districts and limited to a maximum area of 1,000 square feet. The height of non-residential buildings was lowered to 45 feet from the previous 70 feet. Additional standards were added to the exterior lighting section. Sales and services would only be permitted from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m., and this would be for all uses in the overlay district. And also, just for the public's knowledge, the Planning Commission will vote on an official recommendation next month, so they have time to consider any feedback gathered tonight. And they would present that recommendation to council in March, at which such time council will consider any amendments if they so choose.
Good deal. Thank you, Nick. So we had a sign-up sheet for comment. One is completely empty. The other is, as I look at the subjects, none of these pertain to either of our public hearings. So I think our sign-up sheets got a little mixed up. So I'll hand these to you when we're done here. Oh, we got it. All right. So that said, understand there's a little confusion with sign-up sheets. I do want to open an opportunity for anybody who was unable to sign up or had an issue with that. So this time, is there anybody who wishes to approach the podium here and make any statements or have any questions regarding these amendments? Okay. Hearing that, I'll open up to our commissioners first. Do any of you have any comments or questions on the amendment? Good. All right, council, do you have anything you'd like to ask of commission?
So one of the first questions, we changed everything. First, I want to say thank you guys for what you've done, because the task that you've taken on is monumental, and appreciate everything that you guys have done. For the commercial buildings, it's 10,000 square feet for the commercial usage, but if you do a restaurant, it's only 4,000 square feet. How did we land on the 4,000 square feet number for that? And then if there's an outdoor space, it's 1,000 square feet. It seems a little small. How did we land on that number as well?
Sure. So each one of these numbers, and like I said, every red line that you see in there had a lot of discussion about it, and bringing in examples of other commercial businesses that we have within TK and around the Fort Mill area. So kind of comparing in size to say like Miyabi Jr. or other similar facilities, is we're looking at what are the size of each of these look like, and how would that impact the community there? What would still fit within with a commercial district that's right in the middle of a residential area? So a lot of it was, what are the impacts of the kind of business that would be there, and thinking through, sizes and time and use for each of those types of businesses.
And then another question, in regards to time of operation or hours of operation, that's 7 a.m. to, I believe you said 9
It was
p.m.?
9 p.m. is the current.
It's like a hard cutoff for that, like commercial and for restaurant or a yacht club or whatever they put down there potentially?
It's in regards to sales and service. So at that 9 p.m. is the recommended closing time or end of sales and service, on the understanding that they're still going to take time for that business to have to close down for the night. So you
Yeah.
still have cleaning up in the kitchen and of the of the restaurant or store,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So.
So 9 is the hard stop, got it.
Okay.
Can you share with me how you came to, and how does that, I'm trying to visualize it, that 200 feet from the residential district for any outdoor areas? What does that distance look like? Is it are you having enough space there? Does that even allow for that?
There is space there in the vision of how this area could be developed, how it would have to be developed if you were to bring in a restaurant. You wouldn't be able to put a restaurant facility in there with the commercial area that's in there right now. If you rezoning that area would provide some of that opportunity for to have that sort of offset, but that's what we felt. Again, as we looked at other examples and the impacts of those sort of businesses as a reasonable distance, again, considering the residential area around there.
Okay. And then you had, I think I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask the question anyway so other people can hear it. How did you come up with the noise decibel recommendations?
We have a noise ordinance for that, don't we?
That's correct. Nick, where'd you go? We had already a noise level in there, if I remember right.
In the original Marina
In the
overlay?
original, Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of, that was another one that had a lot of discussion on it, how that would be handled, should it be left in, should it be taken out, should it be adjusted, and ultimately we left it in.
Okay.
I had one question, if I can, as far as the timing, the time zone, hours of sales and service. How does that, did you guys discuss how that affects the existing marina as far as when you say sales and service, so it doesn't affect the boat owners coming and going?
No, it does not affect the operation of the slips where you have boat owners coming in and out, but I believe already that their store there closes down before that time. Yes, yeah.
How did you come up with the businesses that were specifically excluded from the list?
So the business list was there was already a business list, and we just went back through that list and said, does this make sense for this area? We really wanted to have, as we listened to the responses from the citizens, both in our meeting and through the survey, there's value to commercial in that spot, but it was important that commercial serve primarily the residential area of the surrounding community. We weren't looking to bring in traffic from outside the community, so that's the reason why you see professional office space was crossed off of that, because that's not something that would necessarily serve that, the residents directly within that area. That would be bringing people in from outside. So.
Good.
Sure. Well, pause there, actually. So, my fellow commissioners, the questions, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Back to your question
All right, council, if no more questions, then we'll close that first public hearing. All right, our second public hearing this evening is regarding proposed amendments to. It's come back now. All right, proposed amendment to the Plan Development District Standards for the development referred to as Main Street. Again, I'll now turn it over to Mr. Nick Cawthon to provide details on that proposal.
Yeah, so the Main Street developers requested that Phase 1 be revised to include the western side of the property adjacent to Stonecrest Boulevard, rather than the original plan, which I believe was approved back in 2022, which had the project commencing on the eastern side near Dam Road. Phase 1 would include 59 townhomes and an approximate 40,000 square foot brewery food hall building with an estimated 30,000 square feet of an outdoor activated patio area to the rear. And then from there, they would go south and then back east counterclockwise with phases 2 and 3. So that's the only amendment to the PDD is the phasing.
All right, thank you, Nick. And Mr. Mayor, thanks for highlighting my miss here. So I saw Nivens and totally missed the Main Street. So we do have a sign-up sheet here where 3 people have signed up to discuss the topic of Main Street. If it is not for this public hearing, just say so. We'll move on to the next one. The first name on here is Mr. Mark Pronzinski. Thanks. Please approach the podium. Just say your name one more time for us and your address.
Mark Pronzinski. I'm at 564 Placid Court, Serenity Point. This is to address kind of. Thank you for having stormwater and pushing that down to Columbia to investigate. But it's in regards to stormwater and Nivens Creek and the impact that development has had with us in the past and our concern with this new development. We're not anti this development, but we want to make sure that our concerns are addressed. During the years that we've lived on the lake, the depth of Nivens Creek has changed significantly. Developments such as Cameron Creek, Trinity Towns, and Revere at TKK have all impacted the water depths of Nivens Creek during our time. The biggest impact to the depth of Nivens Creek has been stormwater runoff not having appropriate controls in place during and after construction projects. Residents along Nivens Creek know when there is an active construction project up one of the creeks that feeds into Nivens. We witness an increase in flow of water through the creeks, and the color of the water becomes a creamy clay red. The stormwater runoff increases during projects because the permeable ground that absorbs water is stripped, and the water and sediment simply run downhill into the creeks. Once the project is finished and the ground is covered with vegetation, the clay color goes away, but the speed of water may or may not go to pre-construction flows. The increase in water volume means that creek beds and banks are eroded and then deposited into Nivens. I've been told by a few long-term residents that they used to swim in our part of Nivens and that the water depth was greater than 10 feet. Today, most parts of Nivens, at least in our part at the end of the creek, is 4 feet or less. When we were looking at houses in 2018, we looked at lots in Serenity Point, and at that time, docks were all floating. Today, most of them are on sandbars, and I'm speaking to when water is at target level, 97 feet. Okay. In our time on the lake, we have seen the creek between Calming Way and Placid Court fill in with sediment during the Trinity Homes development. This was previously presented to council. And then the end of Nivens Creek had an increased buildup of sediment while Cameron Creek was being built. Depths went from approximately 2 to 3 feet to 6 inches or less. This loss was over a 5 to 6 year period. We have photos if anybody wants some evidence. Existing construction regulations that required solutions like silt fences and runoff ponds appear to be grossly inadequate. Just kind of what we're asking for is to make sure that basically these creeks are protected, that we don't have any more we don't have additional damage to the creek, and that we ask that there be some type of an escrow fund potentially put in place. Maybe that's the bond side of it, but there needs to be some funds that if there is some damage, we don't have to fight in court over it. And then there's some discussion about establishing floating silt fences at the mouth of creeks so that anything flowing into Nivens could potentially get knocked down.
Deal. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next name I have on the list is Mr. Mike Dye. Mike Dye. Mike, if you'll just state your name again, your address, and I failed to tell Mark we do have a 3-minute limit.
Yep, absolutely. So Mike Dye, 558 Placid Court. Speaking on the same thing that Mark touched on and trying to drive home a little bit, that this is a historical issue for our end of Nivens Creek. So you can go back as far as 2003 and see that there was turbidity curtain that was put in near the beach club on each side. And all that does is knock the silt down prior to coming further into the lake, right? So that is actually compounded against all the other building that's been going on. So we're getting more and more sediment that's flowing into the lake, and it's pushing down the cove. So with every acre that you open up of hard ground, you have 27,000 gallons of water that has nowhere to go but towards the lake. So the proposed 56 acres that's going to be opened up, let's just conservatively say 10 acres is going to be hardscaped. You have 270,000 gallons in a 1-inch rain that's going to run down. And as Mark spoke on as well, that's eroding our creek beds. That's pushing more silt further and further down the cove, compounding again from 2003. So we have seen that creep from the back end of the cove 750 feet down Nivens Creek, 200 feet wide or 180 feet wide. So that's a significant amount of silt that's been dumped in. You can see from an historical view overhead, each time we have an additional construction zone, one of those 5 creeks is directly affected. You can see the silt build up in those spots and continue to flow into the lake. We'd certainly like to see some additional measures put in place. As Mark alluded to as well, we'd like to see some type of fund to help remediate that, clean some of that up, and then continue to put some preventative measures in place that's going to keep that silt from causing the same issue once again. We're all for the development. We're all for beautifying our community and growth in our community, but not at the detriment to our lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, third up, I have Ms. Allison Sardino.
Yes, thank you.
Just name and address.
Yes, Allison Scardino, 565 Placid Court, also in Serenity Point. Thank you for the opportunity. The good life here, as we say in TKK, and it is unless you live in our cove just down from Nivens Launch, closest to Trinity Towns and what is to become Main Street TKK. We've lived here since 2014. Every time it rains, we hold our breath as we watch runoff and silt pour into our cove. We've lost several feet of depth, need to sell our current boat as it's dangerous now to get in and out of our dock. Neighbors to the right have already sold theirs. Neighbors to the left can no longer use their boat lift and dock. And neighbors just past them can't use their docks at all. We're nearly empty nesters with the hope of selling our beautiful lakefront property for another family to enjoy for years to come. And I'm not so sure we're going to be able to sell it as a lakefront property here in the future. Those of us in Serenity Point are begging you, please, be certain that the strictest practices and retention is in place prior to, during, and most importantly, after the construction to control the silt and runoff and to protect what very little lake we do have left. And most importantly, employ your inspectors to view it daily, to enforce proper construction practices and hold the developer accountable for any negligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Allison. All right, that's it for who is signed up. Again, I do want to open it up in case there's anybody else here who did not have an opportunity to sign up on the list to speak. Okay. Hearing none, I will we'll close this hearing, and council, Mr. Mayor, turn it back over to you and commission is going to retire across the hall to a little meeting over there.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate all the work. You Twix? Okay. With that, we'll move forward and we'll cover our public comments. So I see that there are a couple of different sheets that folks have signed up on, so bear with me and we will get to you. Okay, Trish Snyder.
Good evening. My name is Trish Snyder, 1898 Larkspur Way. I'd just like to thank the City Council along with Parks and Rec for seeing the need for additional pickleball and making that happen for us. A big thanks to Dustin over there. I know him quite well now. And council members who worked with us to hammer out usage of the courts once they are finished. I know you have all gotten an earful from us, and we just wanted to try and make sure that the best use of the courts was being made and allowing for a higher revenue for the city. As it stands right now, we have agreed upon 4 open courts free for anyone and 8 courts available for yearly fee-paying players, 2 of which of those courts will be reservable. Membership to the TKK Pickleball Club is included in the fee structure that Dustin presented at council meeting last time, and should the player decide that they want to be a part of the club, it's already included in that fee and they can choose to join. Work on this has been a long process, and I personally thank all those who have been involved. I thank you for your patience and help in getting us to where we are now. The TKK Pickleball Club looks forward to working with Dustin to make pickleball a successful and fun recreational sport for the city of TKK. And on a side note, I'd also like to thank Fire Chief Hasty for securing an AED for the courts and maintenance area. Shortly after installation, we had about 20 of our players go to a demonstration on the use of the AED up at the Fire Station 2, I believe. So we are very thankful that that is there. And again, I thank you so much for all the work that you guys have done, and Dustin, to get us where we are now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Ray Hayes.
Hi, Ray Hale, 7010 Coventry Court. I'll keep it quick. I know there's a lot on the agenda. I'd like to reiterate what Trish said and just thank first the council and Parks and Rec for being proactive and getting us more pickleball courts, because I think if you go down there at night, you can see the need is pretty great. We all know it's the fastest growing sport in the country. You probably heard that more than you care to. 2 groups that I'd like to highlight from TKK are specifically the high school kids. I like to go down there late at night, play for a couple hours, and trek back at night to wherever the cars are going to be parked. The other group is a very active group of senior pickleball players, and we're talking people in their 60s, 70s, believe it or not, 80s, and some of them do have stickers, handicap stickers on their cars. These 2 groups, in fact, all of us right now, the way the current plan is, we'll park at the Glennon Center, hopefully walk around the fairway and not through it, cross the active street, go down Molokai Drive to TKK and walk in that way. If you do that, it's a little less than 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes, depending on if you're the young group or the old group. There's also an alternative route which people might take, and I'm guessing people being the way they are, they probably will take, and that's going down the dirt hill. So is that the best situation we can come up with? Because these groups are going to be going, the young group will probably be going back at night, unlit, dirt, hill. The older group a lot of times gets up before the sun comes up. And I would like to think they would go down Molokai, but some of them are probably won't. And they're probably going to go down that hill. And I just think maybe there's a way to look at something else, that the city can do. Kind of reconsider that parking situation to accommodate all the players, especially maybe the ones with city stickers. The young group's probably going to still go down or up the dirt trail, and I'm not sure about the older group, but like I said, chances are pretty good they're going to go down that way. I think if we can look at a different, maybe more robust parking situation, we can enhance the safety and convenience for all of our players and demonstrate the city's commitment to supporting the growing pickleball community. We can ensure that everyone, or at least those with city stickers, regardless of age, can enjoy the sport in a safe and accessible environment. The last thing I'll add is, I know we're going to go over the comprehensive plan over this year and make changes to it. It's a very good comprehensive plan that's been put together. Page 9 of the recreational part says, the future state of the city should strive to include a framework for developing additional amenities and opportunities that will be easily accessible to the community. And that's what I'd like y'all to think about to see if that's really where we are with the current plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Ray. Gus Machunas.
All right, Gus Machunas, 376 Calming Way. First, I'd like to thank you all for listening to us again, and maybe I'll just wrap a big bow around what some others said. Charlie, I heard what the city manager said, and I beg to differ. On the 29th was when I sent an email to all of you and to the city manager. I got an immediate reply from the city manager. Within the next couple of days, I got replies from the mayor and the mayor pro tem, and the mayor and I even walked the property. 10 days later, I got an email from Nick Cawthon telling me that the stormwater guru would investigate and get in touch with me. I have not heard a word since, and I would have thought as a concerned citizen that I would have heard something. I've gotten no contact from the city since that moment, anybody on staff. So it would have been nice to know all the things that you said a while ago before I came here tonight. I would like to say that one thing that was not mentioned, the mayor and I saw this, there's 2 culverts that come onto that property down there, and there's one of them that there's crush and run all over the property down there. Crush and run is not natural. It doesn't make itself. Where did it come from? I would say probably a construction site. So why is that there? I've heard no mention of that. As we look at that, I know historically, as Michael mentioned, there was a turbidity curtain or a silt fence or something that was in the middle of Nivens Creek very long time ago before the city was MS4, but regardless, it was still there. And it's the city's job to protect the rights of its citizens, in my opinion. And if that cove is filling in, that's a problem. And it's been a problem for years. And I've mentioned it, and I've mentioned it, and I've mentioned it. I can tell you that historically, before they made a no-wake zone right in front of Nivens Creek boat landing, I used to take a boat and go way back there, almost to where Walmart is. And the water was 8, 9 feet deep, and you could make the most perfect wakeboard run all the way out of there until you got past the little island at the very entrance to Nivens Creek. You can't do that anymore. I've heard talk of turbid water. I can't walk on turbid water, but I can step off my next-door neighbor's dock that used to be 4 or 5 feet deep, and I can stand in ankle-deep water. I can stand on that. That's not turbidity. That's dirt. That's silt. It's sediment. Okay, and that's a problem. I would like to see maybe some means of looking at this and some means of allowing for remediation. Everybody down there that bought waterfront deserves to have waterfront. They deserve to be protected. Their property rights deserve to be protected. As mentioned earlier, there's a huge difference between waterfront and water view. I don't think it's fair that my neighbors can't walk on their dock. So my time is up. The last thing I would like to say is that the last of our 5 children is a senior in high school, and she applied to a whole bunch of colleges, and she got accepted to all of them, but she's been waiting for one. And 5 minutes before I left, came here, my daughter got accepted to Clemson. Go Tigers!
There's a few folks in this room that have some Clemson Tiger graduates. So when you, just let me know when the tickets are, and the barbecue's going on down at the game. And I'll be there, because I know, my man can cook some barbecue. Heather Jones.
May 9th is graduation this year, just so you know.
There you go.
That's right.
Yeah, but we still gotta see your barbecue hat on.
Hello again, Heather Jones, 2109 Bonneville Way. I'm actually here in my capacity as one of the PTO co-presidents at TKK Elementary. First, to give a big thank you for the support our school has been receiving from, in particular, our fire department and police department. They have given us some support with one of our most popular auction items when we're doing fundraisers through the year is Ride to School with police officers and the fire trucks. And so we have our spring auction coming up again, and the Chiefs very graciously gave us not one but 2 rides each, and we're gonna have a competition to see who brings in more between the kids for that. Also, to let the public know, in April there will be police cars taking children to school. It is okay. Please don't panic. I know we're very visible at the front. But I'm also here to pitch. We are doing our first annual TKK Elementary golf tournament this year. One of our parents came forward at the start of the year and said, we've got this amazing golf course in our city. We love to work with the city for other stuff. Why aren't we holding a golf tournament? And so I was here to invite council, city staff, and just the general public to please join us April 3rd, Thursday, noon shotgun for our first annual golf tournament. I've got little QR codes that you can sign up. It's a really cool website. The people who've been putting the work in to get our sponsors and get everything set up. I don't personally golf, but they've sold me on it 100%. So if they can get me behind it, I think that's gonna be great. The fees are very reasonable. We're gonna have a golf cart and dinner included with it. So if anybody is interested, and we hope to see you, we have a discount for bringing 4 people instead of singles or doubles. So hopefully we will see a lot of our community out. It's a great way to support the school. If some of you have seen, we have a new fence installation with Welcome to Titan Country. That's the sort of thing that this helps us fund at the school as the PTO. So we really appreciate all the support from our city staff and from our community members, and hope we'll see you out at the golf tournament.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Luckily, we have a great golf course, thanks to some really good folks. So that will conclude our public comments. No, well, I don't see your name on the list. Okay, we kind of have to do that. Okay. All right, so we're moving on from that to cover our approval of minutes. Do we have any discussion on that? Everybody good with the minutes that we had? Okay, well, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Approved, or second?
Second.
Just hold on for a second. We're getting to the approval
Present.
process. Jeez, want to jump the gun. Okay. Do I have any further discussion?
Aye.
I call in the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm glad you guys can have so much fun. Jeez.
Can't
Get a
help
new
but
set of
think
council
Carmen's
members, please.
thinking boys.
Okay. So I've got on mine
5A?
5A, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not 5A, but we'll work with it. So, got a little unfinished business. We have a second reading of an ordinance 598, an ordinance amending the city code, Article 4, Division 2, and Chapter 22, Article 1, Section 44 through 10, as it relates to the Park, Recreation, and Events Committee and the Stormwater and Environmental Committee. This item is for council to consider the second reading of an ordinance 598 pertaining to the duties of the Park, Recreation, and Events Committee and the Stormwater and Environmental Committee. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 598, an ordinance amending the city's code, Article 4, Division 2, and Chapter 22, Article 1, Section 44-10, as it relates to the Parks, Recreation, and Events Committee and the Stormwater and Environmental Committee.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Do we have further discussion? Okay. Well, I'd like to say I appreciate everybody's hard work that went into this. I appreciate our folks that drew up all the scopes and have done all the legwork for us to get these committees back engaged in the community, and I think that it will be a great engagement as we have seen the past few months and a good step in the right direction, so I appreciate that.
If I may, I just want to say hats off to Dustin because Dustin runs a good department. Our community and folks surrounding our community enjoy some terrific amenities from our Parks and Recreation and our events. And it's not easy when you're in charge of such a visible department to allow yourself to be vulnerable, to let experts and passionate people in different areas of the community step in and say, hey, we want to help with that. But Dustin does a great job of that. He doesn't need any more on his plate. We all know that. But there's a lot of people in this community that give of their time very selflessly to see our city be better. And I want to thank everyone that does that. And thank you, Dustin, for your willingness to let people be a part of that.
Any further discussion? All right, then I would call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right. More unfinished business here. We got a second reading of ordinance 599, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2024-2025 budgets as it relates to the Park and Recreation fee schedule. This item is for council to consider the second reading of an ordinance to set fees which will apply to the reservations of pickleball courts once the resurfacing and conversion of the water courts is complete. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 599, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2024-2025 budgets as it relates to the Parks and Recreation fee schedule.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? I think we pretty much already discussed it, right? Okay.
Right.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay. This is a little bit of new business. We have a consideration of authorizing Pinnacle Golf Management to proceed with the cart path repair project. If anybody has played golf lately, I'm sure that you can appreciate this. So this item is for consideration to council for authorizing Pinnacle Golf Management to move forward with their capital plan to resurface the golf cart paths. The plan is to complete this project in phases, with the Grandview 9 being the first phase. The plan would be able to do the Grandview 9 in 2025, the Pines 9 in 2026, and complete the project with the Cove 9 in 2027. In each phase, there'll be tree work that needs to be completed in order to remove the tree roots that are currently damaging the paths. This work will be paid for using golf proceeds. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to authorize Pinnacle Golf Management to proceed forward with repairing the cart path on the Grandview 9.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. I'll open the floor for discussion.
So we're only approving the repairs at this time on Grandview 9. The others mentioned in the executive summary will be a vote later.
That'll come in subsequent years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
We'd have to do that next year.
got it.
Yeah, what's before you tonight is to resurface the Grandview 9 as well as do the necessary tree work associated with that resurfacing.
Got it.
We've got our folks from Pinnacle Golf Management here. They'll be glad to talk to you about the project or answer any questions y'all may have if it behooves council to bring them up.
Does anybody have any questions on that?
Is Grandview 9 the one that's adjacent to the
Goes
Shore
through
Club
Lake
here?
Shore.
You hadn't played the Grandview 9? It starts right there. Starts right there.
Starts right out that door. Goes through Lake Shore.
That just tells me that we
9
need to go play some golf.
We do.
Yes, sir. It starts right there. Yeah, that's the
The
back.
fairways between Molokai and the Shore Club, right? Is that right?
No.
The fairways between Molokai and the
That's
Shore
the
Club?
Pines. That's the Pines.
That's,
This
Sounds
is
like
the
you need to
back
play
9 of
golf.
the main 18,
Yeah,
doing all 9 holes
okay.
of the Grandview.
that's number
Yeah.
10, tee box right there behind the
Okay,
clubhouse.
so it comes up behind the clubhouse?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
got
sir.
it. Thank you.
I have a non-directional question.
Yes, ma'am.
We
For
don't
the,
ask for directions. Sorry.
His compass is broke.
the budget or the projected cost that's on here, were those numbers something that they went out and got?
They got quotes on it, yes,
Quotes,
ma'am.
okay.
And these were the most advantageous. David, why don't you come up, because y'all handled the bids, but I know that the company that they selected for the asphalt work is one that they have had great success with at another one of the courses that they manage. But David,
Okay,
I'll turn it
just-
over to you, bud.
Just a quick question for you, Charlie. They don't, because it's under the Gulf purview, it does not have to go through our normal
Correct.
process for bids.
Correct, but they did go out and solicit bids. I think you got 2 of the 3 that you solicited, 1 declined to bid.
One declined and then 2 came back, and so this was the most advantageous. Still a slight chance the second one may come back and revisit the number, so as part of this request is a do not exceed, is to make sure we get the best opportunity. But we've worked with all the above that have quoted and done really, really great work, over time. So we're super confident that they'll do, what's necessary. And as we was presented earlier and mentioned earlier, and the great thing about what's going on, we're able to fund this from proceeds of the operation from the golf course itself, which was the goal all along, to be able to do these capital projects and fund it internally. So we're really excited to be able to offer that and be able to do that.
David, can you speak to the tree maintenance and what kind of benefits we can look to achieve with that, the tree maintenance?
Yeah, thanks. It's multiple benefits, not only from the golf cart path, and if anybody's ridden around the golf course lately, it's difficult. And over time it happens, right? I mean, it's just a decay of asphalt, and over time, that creates the issues on the bumpiness, and the tree roots will grow underneath it, and it'll pop the asphalt, and it starts cracking, and it creates some unstable and sometimes risky situations from the golf cart users. So the one benefit of the tree work obviously is to get the trees and the tree roots away from the path, which will create the ability over time to sustain the golf cart path. Versus right now, we've been patching those paths, but over the course of a year or 2 years, the roots just grow right back under it. And from a asset standpoint and from an investment standpoint, it's not a great use of the dollars versus going ahead and clearing it out. But with that, this golf course was built a long time ago, and so the trees over time, the canopies have started to grow in, and from a turf health, to be able to open it back up to its original boundaries will make a significant difference from the ability to grow grass and grow turf for not only the betterment of the golf course, but just from environmental too, just to have grass inside the cart paths versus dirt in a lot of cases inside the cart paths because we have too much shade. So it's really a dual process, which will make a significant difference of this asset. And just for reference, we just completed an 18-hole cart path renovation in another property that we have on the other side of Charlotte. Similar situation to your cart paths here, and the overnight success of the turnaround of just the feedback from the consumer and from the golfers using it, off the chart. And so it just elevates TKK to another level to be able to do this type of investment, and to fund it from within the operation of the golf course makes it even better.
Anybody have any further questions?
Thank you. This is good stuff.
We appreciate the continued investment into the asset. It makes a huge difference.
Well, we appreciate your investment and everybody,
Of course.
our
You guys
staff's
do a good job
investment
of managing
in that as well.
I know
Yep.
our taxpayers appreciate your investment too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I
It's a
throw-
lot easier not to have to ask for the general fund money.
Can I throw one more stipulation in on this? That Chuck has to stay for the rest of his life? You don't get it unless Chuck stays.
He'll be back around to help oversee it, trust me.
10-4, okay.
They were just going to do his employee review and you blew it.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, well, I would ask the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Can I get the code done first? Can we start there? Just kidding. Okay. So we're going to open up a discussion of the comprehensive plan update and consideration of committee appointments, of the committee appointment process. So state law requires that municipalities adopt a 10-year comprehensive plan and update that plan a minimum of every 5 years. This year we'll begin working on the new 2036 comprehensive plan. Nick Coffin, our developmental service director, is here to speak about what the comprehensive plan entails and what that tentative schedule will be.
Absolutely. So first I'll begin with just the process from a high-level view. So once we get the steering committee finalized, we would meet in March for a kickoff with the consultant. They would begin creating the document with input from stakeholders, survey data, and guidance from the steering committee. A public meeting would be held to gather input once they produce some deliverables to share with the public to get feedback on that. Also, subcommittees will be created to address the specific plan elements. So there's 10 plan elements that must be addressed, and that's mandated by state law. But that's also included in your packet. It goes over each of those items and a few sentences about each. And so the goal of the steering committee, in my professional opinion, is to have a diverse group that represents the city's population and interests with individuals who possess at least a foundational level of expertise. That way they can help to guide the consultant along with staff through the process with the ultimate goal of adoption. So tonight we're just seeking council's guidance on how to proceed regarding the citizen representation of the committee. So I'm here if you have any questions.
What about planning and council members?
So as far as the planning commission is concerned, I tasked Chair Amico with finding 2 volunteers from planning commission, and he has gotten Mr. Hale as along with Mr. Jelani to serve in that role. And then as far as council is concerned, I spoke with Mayor and also Chair Member Ms. Miller, and they will be serving to my knowledge.
I say that because I think it's a little preemptive. That I think that's a decision for us in that looking at other municipalities, they do it completely different than the process. And I know you're going off what they did 5 years ago. So nothing against you, Nick. I'm just trying to understand because I haven't never been through this and looking at what all these other municipalities do with a much larger steering committee. Just trying to understand the scope of the steering committee. First, the steering committee's function. Because a lot of them don't even call it a steering committee. And so is that something you guys can talk to just so we have an understanding of what the steering committee, what the function is, so we understand, I guess in our opinion, at least my opinion, who should be on it?
As Nick said, and I'll try to add to that as I can, but really they don't have any authority. It's really more to just kind of keep everybody on task. And keep the plan marching forward so we can try to stay on the schedule that the consultant has pushed out, at least to Nick. And it's just getting input. Yeah, we want council and we want planning involved along the way so that whether it's the mayor or mayor pro tem as it's traditionally been, or if y'all decide, well, we want 2 other members to do it. Yeah, we want those people to be able to go back and communicate to their groups, whether it be planning commission or council. Hey, here's what we're working on. You know, here's some of the elements that we've gotten back. You know, what do y'all think and that kind of thing, almost as your representatives, if you will. But once it moves towards completion, you've got planning commission that will have a public hearing on it.
Correct.
They'll make that recommendation to council, and then ultimately council has to adopt it via ordinance with 2 reads. So all 5 members of council, all 7 members of planning commission are going to have a bite at it, if you will, for lack of a better term. But the steering committee's primary function is just to keep things moving forward as far as from the subcommittee. So you, as Nick said, you've got 10 planning elements. It used to be 9. They added a 10th one since our last go-around with it. So we're envisioning probably 5 subcommittees where we're going to want each member of council to be on one of those subcommittees. We're going to ask for planning commission to split up amongst those subcommittees. And then fill those out with your general population residents on those subcommittees. So
When you say keep them on, keep who on plan? The consultant? I mean, who, you're saying the steering committee has to keep it on plan, but who are they keeping on plan?
the subcommittees, keep them rolling forward and keep them marching forward and doing the work and things like that. I mean,
So not the consultant?
correct.
So the subcommittees would meet and then come back and brief the steering committee? Is that what you're saying?
So the steering committee would help to formulate that, because by state law, really, as long as the plan follows the 10 elements, it gets an affirmative recommendation from planning commission and council approves by majority, it can be adopted. How we get there is up to council. We were just following some practices that have worked in the past, also with the help of our consultant, who has done a few of these. But the biggest things that I got back from the consultant was, you want it to be representative of the community. You don't want it to be too large. It creates a cumbersome meeting. It's hard to get things
Yeah.
done. And you typically wouldn't want to create a quorum of another body. You could, like I said, those aren't hard rules, just some feedback that I received.
Yeah, I know when I look at Fort Mills, which I'm not recommending this by any means, but it was all of council, all of planning, and it was it 39 or 59 people?
It's a total of 39.
39 people. A little too big.
Yeah,
And I'm not recommending that.
I
I'm
don't
just,
know if that may have included all of the subcommittees too.
Maybe.
I don't know if they
Yeah.
had 39 people in the room. Maybe they did. I can't speak to that.
It's like
but
herding cats, man.
It seems like possibly that was the full,
Yeah.
volunteer. That would be my guess.
So there's not a specific recommendation for how many people need to be in the steering committee. I think Mayor Gray shared that it needed to be an odd number of people. Is that correct, or just?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really. There's no formal vote taking
Okay.
place.
It's just consensus mainly?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
right.
it makes sense that you have an odd number if you have to
Okay.
break a tie somewhere for something.
Right. And really, the
Well-
goal.
Well, as a steering committee, you would,
They would basically agree on what they would present to council. Is that right? Do I understand that right?
I think a steering committee is just taking charge of moving it forward, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So if there was ever a reason why we needed to have an opinion of people to go in this direction or this direction, you would want to have an odd number.
Right. And I do want to, one more thing I want to add is a lot of places will do, since technically by state law, the planning commission is tasked with updating, council obviously adopts. Some places do just the planning commission, but in my opinion, after speaking with a few others, we want to make sure that it gets adopted. So we don't want to just have one body looking at it the whole way through, and then we get to the end and, some other folks didn't get their input, and it's not what you guys wanted. So that's sort of the background on that.
So as we're doing this, sort of with a baseline of what has been tradition, how have not necessarily a steering committee, but in general, anyone that's served on the subcommittees, how has the city or how has your department determined the representation? Do you go through and say, okay, there's X many, we're going to break up the city into different sections, and we're going to try to get one representative from each one of these sections? Because the opinions of what's important is going to be very varied, very extremely varied. If you're looking at the marina versus, off of Stonecrest and the people that might be affected by Main Street, right? So is there a way that we can set up different sections and say we're going to take committee members from number of committee members from each of these sections?
Yeah, so as far as the subcommittees are concerned, that is something that the consultant and myself would rely heavily on the steering committee
Okay.
to guide. So the steering committee would be the
So that is one of the charges for the steering
exactly
committee.
first determining what we would even want a subcommittee for. Laying that out whether we need 3, 4, 5, however many we need, and then how that will be, how those positions will be filled. Because we don't want to just create committees to create, and we also want to make sure that we have the right people on those to be beneficial to the end product.
I really hope that we'd have enough people to fill out the committees themselves, because sometimes we do have a problem filling out our regular committees that we got, and now we've got more committees, and committee on committee, it's.
Well, we don't have a choice though, right? I mean, we've got to be able to
We gotta
have
do it.
Right.
people in place to provide these.
Compliant with the state
Yeah.
law, right? It's pretty likely a good opportunity for someone to step into a temporary role as a volunteer, as a resident, right? That
And
might,
get your feet
might,
wet, see
might
if you like it.
introduce them to an opportunity for a more permanent role on a committee.
Well, I mean, to me, it's a huge deal. I mean, you're basically
Yeah, it is.
planning out
It's the future
the
of the city.
next 10 years of growth and development and where the focus is going to be. And so much of the conversation comes back to the past, what's been done in the past and how it affects us now. Well, now is an opportunity for the conversation to be on the decisions that are going to be made for the future. So I would hope that for anyone out there listening, you want to be part of that conversation of something that you can actually work towards rather than look back and say, we shoulda, coulda, woulda. So hopefully we won't have such a lack of response. I think it's an exciting opportunity for all of us to be a part of.
If I may, one of the things that Nick and I have had a number of conversations about this. And looking back at 10 years ago, 11 years ago, if you will, when our current comp plan was being worked on, we had a very, I'll call it diverse representation on the subcommittees. I mean, and that's really where your work on those planning elements are getting done. Think of it as more, they're working with the consultant to produce the draft, and steering committee is then looking at the draft for each of those elements. And getting people from as many different sections of town, I think is important. Varying age groups are going to be important. Male, female, I think is going to be important because everybody's going to have different ideas, and you want to get as many of those ideas vetted through those subcommittees as you can. My recommendation to council would be that, and we can do this as soon as by close of business tomorrow, is we develop a very brief application that we push out to the residents, bring those applications back to city council in time for your March meeting, and then let council go through the appointment process. You're already getting, and I realize that I'm saying that knowing that you're also going to be appointing folks on your standing committees. But that's the only way I know how you're going to get a good swath of the population or representation of the population.
Is this for the steering committee or all committees?
For your subcommittees. And you could use the same process for your steering committee. We just need, we've historically had 6.
I think you meant steering committee.
Well, steering committee, but I would do the application process for the residents that are on the subcommittee as well.
So one application would go out and you just check which one you're interested in? And
We could do it that way, absolutely. The subcommittees won't get formed immediately, so there's not, and Nick, please jump in if I'm saying this wrong, but the subcommittees are gonna come after the steering committee gets up and going, correct?
Yeah, because the steering committee will guide what exactly those subcommittees look like. I wouldn't feel comfortable forming those.
So we could do
until
steering
we-
committee now and then come back subsequently when the time is right and do basically same application, but for subcommittees,
I think
for folks that want to participate in those.
when we did the deer survey, we had it broken into sections, which was really helpful. And maybe we can, I don't know if we can use the same sections or not, but include that in the application so that whoever's answering we know where they are and we
Yeah.
don't have it heavy on one side or the other.
Yeah, we can absolutely, I mean, I'm talking about an application that's name, address, possibly number of years living in the city. Because I think your folks that just arrived within the past year, I think their opinion's as important as people who've been here for 40 years.
Yep.
Yeah, it's their city now too. So, name, address, number of years here, we could break it down even further to what section of the city do you live in?
I think
that
that
kind
just
of
makes
thing,
it
or
easy
we
in
could
the
determine that
selection
for council based on
process.
their address.
Yeah,
So-
well, I guess we could.
So, I mean, either way, I mean, my opinion is we keep the application as simple as we can. Take somebody 2 minutes to fill out kind of thing and submit. And then we can, once those applications come in, we can break it down as to, all right, these are the names from we call it Amberwoods. We used to have, when we had TK Connect, we had the city divided up. We could go based off of that map, to be quite honest. And it can list the names for council. Hey, here's the applications for this section, applications for that section, and so on and so forth. That way y'all can try to make an informed decision as to who you want to appoint. But Nick brought up a good point. The key right now is, how many people on the steering committee? And do you want to go through an application process on that? Which we can get started tomorrow. We've historically had 6 members, they're all residents, but 2 general citizens, 2 from planning, 2 from council. We could go 3 from planning because that's still 1 less than a quorum. We could go with 5 residents instead of 2. Just need council's feedback so we can try to get that ball rolling.
I would like to get the ball rolling as quickly as possible, and putting it out for applications and that kind of thing, to me, I would really like to have a steering committee that understands the historical portion of this for TEK. I'd like to have folks on that committee that have served the city of TEK and have been a part of the major momentum and the forward movement that we've had in putting the pieces of TEK together so they understand where we came from and they understand where we're going. I also don't need to be putting training wheels on folks, so I need folks that can hit the ground running and doing what they need to do. So it's my 2 cents that these folks on the steering committee need to be appointed, and they need to have some experience in the city of TEK in doing the business of TEK. That's my opinion. So
I think there's value.
take it for what it's worth.
If I may, I think there's a lot of value in what you say, to have folks on the committee that have historical reference in the city, that have seen the development and the progress in the city. I think Charlie made a good point that some folks that are new to the area, maybe, I think about Councilman Heislip, has been here for several years, but he's got a lot of experience in other areas of the state and the country and has seen things that work and don't work. Someone like that, that's perhaps newer to the area, that can bring some fresh ideas and some fresh interest to the city. Charlie, a question I have for you, the SC Code of Laws, Section 629, 510 that's in our packet, is that easily found on the website somewhere for residents to locate that?
Not on our website. I pulled it straight from the state's website, from their code of laws.
The reason I ask that is there's some really great information in there for the benefit of folks that are here, perhaps watching tonight or later on. Those 10 elements are pretty remarkable for our people to see. They may
And
find
if I
something
can,
passionate.
this actually is on our website, under the agenda packet, where folks can
Okay.
click on that link.
Okay, good.
To access,
All right.
that specific
Good,
section
so
of the
I would
code. Yes,
encourage
sir.
folks to look at that packet for tonight's meeting under this section of the agenda, because the 10 elements that Charlie mentioned that will be reviewed and will be up for discussion for the steering committee are things like population, economic development, natural resources, cultural resources, community facilities, housing elements, land use, transportation, priority of investments. Can't make sense of this 10th one because it's pretty lengthy, but I'll dig into that one myself as well. But everyone in the city will find some level of passion for one or more of those topics that will be discussed, and I'd highly encourage you to get involved in one or more of those topics.
Do you think maybe we could condense some of those topics into maybe having one crew cover 2 of those scopes?
Yeah, I think that sounded like you might have been pointing in that
that'd probably
direction
be
with 5
Yeah,
subcommittees.
I don't
Yeah, I
think
think
we're
that'd be a
looking at
prudent thing
10
to do.
subcommittees by
You don't want
by
10
any stretch.
subcommittees,
No,
right?
no.
I think at most, you're probably looking at 5, maybe 6, worst-case scenario.
I agree. I just want to encourage folks to read through that and see where they can contribute to their city and the development of our future.
I would agree. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So it's the question that we have, how are we going to move forward in choosing a steering committee? Whether that's sending it out as an application process and opening it up, or if we are going to go through a nominating process where we all participate in that.
Yeah, it's really up to you guys, and how many people you want on it. Yeah, like I said, traditionally, it's been 6. But you can, You can go less, you can go more. It really is up to council. We just need to know what that direction is so that
So
we can
of
start the
those,
process.
of those 6 or 7, that's not 6 or 7 additional people to, what's been traditionally 2 council members, 2, I guess it's 3 from the planning commission, right?
Typically, it's 2, 2, and 2.
Okay.
Is what it's been in
2
the past.
residents,
2
2 planning, and
residents,
2 council?
2 planning, 2 council is
Okay.
what it has been.
I'd highly
in the
recommend
past.
more residents than that. Not 32,
Right.
but, right.
Well, what if, council, if you put together a short list of folks that come to mind, and make that list, and then we could get together and decide on that?
I wouldn't exclude someone that raises their hand or reaches out to us and says, hey, I want to be part of it. So I think there's value in requesting volunteers, or I hate to put people through an application process like they do for committees, because that's pretty cumbersome, but
Well, this is for the steering committee
Yes.
versus all the other committees,
Right.
right? So we're looking at 2. I mean, I guess if we decide that we want more people, but traditionally, we're looking at adding 2 residents, which I agree with you. I think that that's a small number.
yeah.
We
I
can
don't
keep
know
it-
what the right number is, but I think that we need more input than that through the steering committee process.
Maybe
Well,
keep it
we
a touch under
wouldn't-
39?
If
Yeah.
council decides to
Maybe
do
29.
applications on this, we wouldn't do it through Matchboard like we do the other committees. We would use our Cognito forms that we do for a lot of our other online forms. So it could be a very, very simple application
Yeah,
process.
good.
I mean, it really could. I mean, we could develop that app within minutes tomorrow and have it pushed out in public if that's the direction council wants to go. It wouldn't be a cumbersome process to develop it and get it out. We would keep it simple to where it's not a cumbersome process for people to fill out. And then we would just get those names back to council. Again, if that's the direction y'all decide to go.
If we're going to look at those 10 and think that we might be able to combine those into possibly 5, if that's the goal, then maybe we can consider having 5 residents that are part of that, just
Sure.
as a,
That's kind of
as
the
a,
number I was thinking,
as a
Carmen.
simple.
Yeah, I mean, there's,
I
I know I'm not really providing a lot of guidance with this, but there's no right or wrong
Well,
answer.
and that's why
So
I'm
it's
just kind of putting it out
yeah, yeah.
there. I'm looking down at the table here saying, if we have to make decisions going forward, if we're going to have five actual committees, then maybe there needs to be 5 residents that are part of the
From
steering committee.
Right.
Because you said that each person on council is going to be part of one of these committees, right?
That would be our hope, but, I mean, obviously, if there's somebody on council's like, I just physically don't have the time to do this, that's okay, too. I mean, there's no mandate that each member of council ends up on a subcommittee.
No, but even if
But
there was,
We would ask, yeah.
you have 5 members of council, you have 2 members from the planning commission, right? And then you have 5 members from the public. That basically gives you 1 member from the public to go into each one of those committees.
Sure.
1 member of council to go into each one of those committees, and then planning can go to maybe the committees that have the most extensive oversight.
Carmen, you're suggesting then that if we did 5 for the steering committee, those 5s would also have to go to the committee? Does
Well, I
the
think that's
lower-
what Charlie.
They don't have to, no.
Okay.
We ask for council to,
Okay.
and we
Oh,
want
council,
planning to be
got it,
involved in
got it,
each of
okay.
those. But your residents that are on the steering committee aren't necessarily also on subcommittees.
Got it.
I would say the critical path forward first is to establish the steering committee, and then we can establish all those
It is.
parameters
The
with
steering committee is the most important thing right now.
Is what I would, that's,
Well, and I agree, but I personally, my personal opinion is a city member of council, and this being a huge plan for the city, that 2 members of council and 2 members of planning shouldn't be dictating everything that happens with the comp plan, especially when you earlier said you can't vote. Well, now they're voting, and they're making official policy. And so, again, do you remember what Rock Hill or other cities do?
It's a very fluid process, because it's so comprehensive. It's called a comprehensive plan, and it's got this 10 broad areas. I mean, it's hard to have, because your people in planning, your planning commission, they're used to more of your zoning, but they aren't looking at investment. They aren't looking as much in cultural resources, some of these other, maybe the housing types. And I think that's why a lot of people form these committees, just to get a few more people. but it's coming back to you, it's gonna come back to the planning commission. So you, as council, are gonna have the ultimate decision and the vote on the comprehensive plan. What you're trying to do is come up with a committee to try to get as much information to you when you look at that and make the decision on those 10 elements. And a lot of it's gonna include historical data, and that's where your consultant comes in. They're gonna look at growth in this area, in this region, and there's a lot of information that's gonna come out. They're gonna look at resources, what kind of grant opportunities you have, what kind of funding, transportation. They're gonna pull it all in. So I think it's, I think you're having 5 members and then 2 and 2, that gives you an odd number, 9 people, it's manageable. Get that formed, and then let them listen to the consultant, listen to the planner, and then come up. And I do think you'll form some subcommittees, but once you get them going, you can decide that and keep it. But it's a very fluid process. It doesn't have steps that have to be made. It doesn't have appointments that have to be made. It's just a recommendation on how to get this going. So I think 5's a great number of residents, and appoint them, and then take it from there. But there's not a precise process that has to be followed other than adopting a comprehensive plan with the 10 elements.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. My only concern, and again, just for the record, my concern is with the steering committee is it seems like council's abdicating their authority to a sub-body that has no authority because they can't vote. They're not a rule-making body, yet they're gonna determine the different subcommittees. They're gonna put the people on the subcommittees, and they're gonna take all the information that comes back from the subcommittees and the consultants and then give direction back to them, and the rest of council is, what's going on over there? Can I get an update?
Well, but isn't council gonna be part of the subcommittees? Yeah, you're.
Well, I'll be on one of them, maybe, if we want to. We don't have to. So that's my point. I just, again, I don't like when we advocate a lot of authority. We gave up the plat stuff to planning. It just seems like we're constantly giving away our authority, and it seems like a big deal, right?
Okay, I'm listening to what you're
So
saying.
that's what I'm saying.
What would it look like so that you're not feeling like we're advocating that authority?
I'm not sure. That's what I want to talk about. And that's why I was asking. I don't know, what's Rock Hill do? Do you have any idea, Chad? Because I've looked on their website, I couldn't find anything.
They only do it every 10 years, but they hire a consultant, and a lot of input comes from the consultant. Because these consultants, since municipalities only do this every 10 years, these consultants, they're doing it all over the place. So they're doing, 4 or 5 at any given time.
I mean, from a council perspective, do you know what they do with
I
their
I
council?
do
Don't
not
remember.
recall off the top of my head, but I think they probably form a committee because they still get to see it at the end, and they still get to make the determination in the end on the vote.
I get that, but by the time it comes to you, it's done. You accept it as it is, or you don't take it. I mean, realistically.
But that's why we want council involved
Everything else.
Yeah.
throughout the process, so that.
How's
the
council
first time that you
involved
get it,
throughout the process?
Well, you would have council members on the steering committee and council members on, potentially on the subcommittee. We want council having that input, so that way when the document goes through the public hearing process and comes to council, it's not the first time that you're looking at this document and you've had input along the way. Ideally, the representation of council on the steering committee is reporting back to council, hey, here's what we're looking at, here's what's come about. And that way, if it's, hey, I don't really like that, okay, I'll bring your comments back to the steering committee and I'll let them know that, hey, I got feedback from 2 other council members that they want to see this thing, not that thing, or whatever the case may be. I mean, in an ideal situation, there's communication from the people that are on whether it be steering or subcommittee, back to their representative bodies throughout the entire process.
I get that, but then decisions are being made ultimately by the steering committee about the input from it, and not council.
Let me.
Because, let's say,
Go ahead.
2 people were on there, I like the city center. I was not a fan of city center, right? I mean, we had 37 high-rises, right? And it entered, there's no qualms about that. I'm on the record voting against it. That comes up, similar thing comes up in the comp plan. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem come to me and say, look at this great city center idea. I don't like it.
Hey, you saw
All
the
right,
record
well, we'll
on
let
the
them know, duly noted. I just don't like the city center plan. Too bad. Move on. And then a year from now, we're sitting here, and there's a city center plan, right?
and I don't know if they talk to the other members of council. Again, I personally feel like the steering committee should be council with some other people. That's my opinion. Just because, again, I'm just not comfortable in another way. And again, it can be, you can have some planning members, you can, a bunch of citizens, whatever. I'm not advocating for 39 people, but looking at the way Fort Mill did it, it made sense to me that then it's, again, it could just be a separate workshop once a quarter. All council's here with whoever else is on the thing, and we get the input. And then everybody has a chance to give their input.
So would that be considered like an actual meet, because
Oh, yeah,
it would
you
be a
have to.
quorum. We would be voting on every specific thing that is coming up on that comp plan. So every single item that is on the comp plan is something that we would have to vote on? Is that basically?
Not until it's final.
Yeah, not until.
Yeah.
Y'all-
Wouldn't-
you don't-
wouldn't be a
you-
vote scheduled.
You can't take a vote on the
Right.
comp
Right.
plan
But-
until you've
but
gotten
Tom is
the
saying that-
recommendation from.
From his perspective, we should have
You'd
every
have
person on
consensus of council before
council.
we can move forward.
Yeah, if every member of council is part of the steering committee, and we're considering every recommendation that the subcommittees are making, and we're voting on it, then that's a vote.
You wouldn't be voting. Why would you be voting?
Well, because that's his point.
I'm trying to understand is that, there's no, so it's not a vote, but it's a general push in that direction? I mean, that's where I'm very confused
But
about
If
the
we have
steering
th-
committee
if
and
we
the
have
authority. and-
three council members that are pushing in one direction, it is a vote, right? If
Yeah.
that 37 high-rise conversation came up and there's 5 people on council on the steering committee, and 3 of us said, oh, we love the idea, but 2 of us said, no, we don't like the idea, which way is it gonna go? Is it gonna stay on there, or is it not gonna, because that's what you're saying. that
Yes.
You want to have the ability to have that conversation at that time. But then that would be a vote, right? It wouldn't be a suggestion, it wouldn't be a plan. It would be a vote, and it would have to be a vote for every single aspect of that as it's coming up.
Sounds to me like Tom wants to have, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you want to have a voice in, as a steering committee, right? You want to have a voice in steering it in the direction that council desires or away from the direction that council desires, right? Not
Yes.
necessarily a vote, but,
Right.
hey, guys, we're not really in agreement with that city center, so let's maybe look at a different direction, right?
Correct.
It's not a vote, but it's steering that, moving the steering committee in the direction of council's desire. Let me, if I may, I want to address something with you, Tom, and I want to give you a little comfort in this. You shared that you're concerned about giving up authority, and I'd like to exchange the word
Well,
authority.
one thing that you could have as part of this process.
Let me finish for a second,
Yep,
please.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, I'd like to exchange the word authority with empowerment. And I'd like to maybe look at the steering committee as, say, theoretically, right? 5 citizens, 2 council members, 2 planning commission members, and maybe even somebody from EDC, I don't know, whatever that looks like, right? But that they're empowered to steer the city in the direction that the city needs to go in the next 10 years, or the direction that the residents want the city to go in the next 10 years. And then, again, I'll replace that word authority with responsibility when it comes back to us. Like, we have the responsibility to make the decision to say, this is how the city has to spend their money or invest our resources, the way the steering committee has come to us. And we can agree to it or not agree to it, or push it back to the steering committee and say, hey, revisit this, we don't like this. Can you, like we did with planning, man, they did a great job on the marina.
Council
overlay.
doesn't see the
What's that?
whole thing, only steering committee does.
Say
We
again.
can't push it back as a council.
But
Yeah, when
council
it
can-
comes to us as a vote,
council
so-
could have the communication together to make sure that we're all good that way, and make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on, so you are aware. That's
Sorry,
essentially
Charlie.
what's-
We're aware, but we can't push it
And I
back.
apologize
You can't-
for interrupting, Mr.
It's just-
interrupting, Mr.
Don't-
Shirley. I
don't
thought
feel
you
that
wrapped
way.
up, but
Just wanna
one of the
finish
things
that
that we
thought.
could
That's
require
my
of the
opinion.
steering committee is monthly, quarterly, whatever frequency needs to be made, they can come before council and give updates and make reports and things like that, to where
Okay, good.
you could
That's
hear
exactly where I was
firsthand,
going.
hey, here's what
There
we're
we go.
working on, here's what we've been doing, you're doing it in a public setting, and then all 5 council members, if you're doing a subset, so to speak, on the steering committee, could hear that and can give feedback as a council. I like this, I don't like this, I like the way you're going, or no, you're going the wrong way. And the 5 of you can debate that during your meetings.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's where,
you
that's
could
where I was going with
absolutely
it.
do it that
So
way.
To
we
have
could-
a, have a
we could have
component of
like
the
a
city council
workshop
meetings
type
where
thing.
Right.
we've got a component in each meeting that gives an update and then room for discussion in each meeting.
There you go.
For that, to where you can say, no, I don't like the Center City thing. I'd rather it be a horse pasture. Then, you know, then council, we've got direction.
And we
each
can have a
month
discussion about it.
Going forward to where we can.
What we just said, though, a second ago, we can't do that because it's a vote. And you can't vote on it until the end. Listen,
Fine, it's a discussion. Like we're
That
talking
was
here.
It's just like this conversation, we're having a
yeah,
discussion.
but the
for
people
consensus.
sitting there from the steering committee are gonna have to get three of us to, yeah, I kinda like that too, and then they're like, all right, that's the direction we go. That's a vote. In my opinion.
We're in a city council meeting.
Yeah, I
the
think
city
that's
council
different
meeting,
than
we're-
being on the subsection that's dealing with the steering committee. But I think you can provide instruction to them, and I think they could provide, and I think that would be great. Because if they come in and they're like, well, here's where we're going with this on one of these 10 areas, and they look and like 4 of y'all are nodding your head, I think y'all could instruct them to, you know, the
Figure out
majority
another way
here
to go.
believes the vision. We would like to see you have more input in this area and go in this direction. And I think you could do that.
So once we're here at an actual meeting, it's fine to do that, but not so much.
It's
from the
better to do it
steering-
here as a meeting.
Better to do it here as, okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, if we could just get the ideas together and bring it forward in a council meeting. Where you do have quorum and you do have the way for the council to direct in which way you wanna go.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
If council can sit up here and give direction, why can't they be the steering committee and give direction?
We can.
You just said we couldn't, then it's a vote. That's what we were just saying.
We can be the steering committee.
And I'm not saying we should be, I'm just, listen, I don't like, I love the empowering idea, but again, we were elected to do this job, and now you guys take this and go and run with it.
Traditionally, that's what we've done. Now, we all know that there's a few of us that just don't do tradition well. And that's fine. We can do this any way we want to, as far as the steering committee goes. You know, so if you guys want to do it as far as doing a council meeting and having a workshop every month or every week, you know, let's just wait till basketball season's over with before we do that, please, because I might be driving some places. But, no, if we want to just do it with council, I'm just saying, we need to have folks on that steering committee that have the vision for the future, have got the history for the past, and we don't need to put training wheels on the steering committee.
100%.
I'm really
I think the
okay
phrase
with a
is
group of
duly
residents.
called. It's a duly called council meeting, right? Where we're actually putting it out on a calendar. We're saying this is a council meeting, in which case we can vote. But with a steering committee conversation, it's just a committee, so we wouldn't.
And a discussion.
We wouldn't, we can have a discussion, but we can't have a vote. And if you have a quorum, then it's not a called meeting. And I think that would be the
Well, the agenda
difference,
won't
one of the
have a vote.
difference between the two.
There won't be a vote on the agenda, it'll only be a discussion, right?
Yeah, like the workshop.
Correct, that's right. And Tom, I don't disagree with you, I don't disagree with everybody being on the steering committee, I don't disagree with it. I'm just gonna tell you that I probably can't make those meetings and these meetings and subcommittee meetings and all those. Probably can't do all that. So I'll do my very best, and I'll give you guys my best. But I'm also okay with 5 intelligent residents from our community and 4 or 5 or 6 intelligent folks from council or other committees to be part of the steering committee that brings things back to us to make the final decision. I think that's who we are as a board, like
Yes.
we get those recommendations and we make that decision.
Yes, and I get what, Tom, you're trying to say. I don't mind having 2 members of council on the steering committee, 2 members of planning commission, and then 5 residents. Residents that are, you know, that have been here for a long time, members that are residents that have been here for a short period of time. So we have a variety of people, so a total of 9 essentially, that will be on the steering committee. Once they do that, they'll come back, report to council. It'll open up that line of communication, not necessarily votes, but provide that guidance or what's going on. And then at a later point, we'll focus on the subcommittees and getting that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But how do we get to having, if we could all agree, having 9 people on there, 2 council, 2 planning, and then 5 residents? And then how do we get to the residents? Do we go
I
off and
think
do
that's a-
application?
that's a
Or
good
do
format.
or do we have individuals that we already have that we're thinking about?
I'd say let folks raise their hand if they want to be a part of it. And we, like we usually do, we make a decision on it.
As long as we're comfortable with that, I just want to come to a conclusion on this subject,
we-
so,
yeah.
because
we
we're
can do
close.
Right.
Right.
I'm good with opening it up, only because I think that, I might think of some really, really amazing people, but there may be people out there that I haven't even.
Right, you don't know them.
I don't
That's
know
out
them.
there.
And
Which is-
they can, you know, their expertise might be exactly what we need in, you know, to fill a gap.
Absolutely.
So, yes, I think that people that have lived here and have volunteered and have given their time are incredibly important. And if they want to be a part of that process, then, you know, they should ask to be part of that process. And if it's not part of the steering committee, my gosh, there's, you know, 10 others combined into 5 where their voices can make a difference also, and they can help build that together. But I do think
Act as a
that's
chair.
important.
Yeah, maybe act as a chair on the
Act as a
committee.
chair,
or something.
exactly. I just think that anytime that, as a city, we're going to have to make these major decisions, the more input that we get up front, where people raise their hands and bring in their values and bring in their ideas, the less that we have to go backwards and fix later.
Agreed.
So I would like to open that up.
I agree with that.
So
and I would
how do
say
we
that-
open that up? Like having members or residents reach out to the city and say that they want to do that? How do we?
You have
I
a
think-
process for that, right?
Okay, as long as we have a process for that, I think we're good with that.
And I'm not opposed to the 4 of you guys being on the committee if you want to be. I'm going to tell you, I just don't want to get in your way if I miss a couple meetings, that's all. I'd love to be a part of it. I want to be a part of all of it, but I don't want you to have to catch me up every time that I miss. So if you guys want to do it and can be committed to do it every time, I'd say get in there. If you want to just do 2 of you, I support that too.
Me personally, I think it should be council, but I'm
Me
fine
neither.
if you guys go that way, that's fine too. It doesn't, I mean, I'll live, don't worry about me.
I want to be a part of it, but I recognize.
I
my
can't,
limits.
I don't have to go to an extra meeting,
Why
so
don't
be
we
it.
do it 3, 2, and 5 then, Tom, and you can be part of the 3 to go on this, and then,
Well,
unless
then
Brian
you
wants
got
to be
quorum,
on
but
there
then you
too,
got
and
a
then.
quorum, and I don't know.
But we would have quorum.
Right.
I don't think that's an
anyway.
issue, is it,
Right.
Chaplain?
I mean, that's what you're saying, is that we would,
It's not an issue for a quorum.
yeah.
Because we're not voting, we're just having, it's like a
Right.
workship.
If we're coming together talking about city business, we're going.
Yeah,
So raise your hand if you want to be part of the steering committee in your own.
Well, it's a
council.
quorum, so we've got to announce it, but it's
I mean,
no
that's
vote.
basically-
Yeah,
If you have a quorum, yes. If you have
That's the
less
only
than a
difference.
quorum, no.
it'll be a meeting,
Tom,
because
do
you have
it.
a quorum.
You're going to
Yeah.
provide great
Well, I
feedback.
don't, I don't want to screw it up and say if it, somehow that makes a major issue.
It's cleaner to have 2, because then the 3 people can really dictate that meeting and bring it on. That's why you have to announce it as a quorum at a meeting anytime you have 3 or more.
We'll also have to draft minutes if you've got a quorum of council and all that good
So
stuff.
it would have to be treated as a.
It would be
It'll
like
have
a
to be treated just
regular
like a
meeting.
meeting.
I recommend 2.
Yeah, just like the
for voting,
workshops we did.
If we keep
All right,
it
listen,
2,
you guys can do that. I'm gonna say, I like the idea of having all council, but I'm fine with, if you guys go 2, 2, and 5, go for it.
let's do all the council, have bi-weekly meetings.
I'm out. I'm going to tell you, I can't commit to that.
I know.
I thought the steering committee only met like quarterly.
They'll meet as frequently as they need to. They'll probably meet a lot in the beginning, until things get running, and then it'll be a little bit less frequently as the subcommittees are doing their work. But, I mean, you're very well looking at least once a month, in the beginning,
Once a month?
at a minimum.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
I think that I think that if you feel very strongly about wanting to be part of this, and we need to make that a quorum meeting, and I think you should be,
And
right?
if you want to be a
That
part
is
of
why.
it, I'll step down and let you do it. I'm serious. If that's how adamant you are about
it's,
it,
it's not that, it's
Sounds
not that
like
at
you
all.
want-
It's-
we don't
want
have
all
to
of
do
council.
traditional, man. I
It's,
mean,
yeah,
you
no,
know we
no.
don't.
It's not about the 2, it's nothing like that. Again, my whole point of this was trying to ensure that council as a whole is involved and engaged in the direction of it is coming from council, that's all. But listen, let's just do the 225 and call it.
I get the perception we're gonna be a lot more involved than you might think.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be the case.
Right.
As always.
Yeah, right.
Listen,
And
end of the day, I just wanted to
appreciate
put that out for you guys to understand my concerns, but I can live with it.
I value that a lot. Appreciate that, and I appreciate you not requiring me to be at every meeting.
We don't have to take a vote tonight on it, so. We need to take a vote on it tonight? Okay.
We've got to get the steering committee, if we're doing the application, we're doing the 2, 2, and 5, we've got to get the applications out, give people time to fill them out.
Mr. Mayor
and
and
then bring
members
it
of
back to
council, I'm gonna make a
and-
recommendation. We have 5 residents from the city, 2 members from council, and at least 2 committee members present for the steering committee.
From planning.
Does it have to be from planning or
Yes.
EDC or both?
It has to be from planning.
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter,
Okay.
but, yeah, we've got 2 planning commission members that have volunteered to do it
Okay.
from PC. They're gonna, I mean,
And
obviously,
then I'll
planning
amend my,
commission's gonna be
my
heavily involved.
motion to include 2 planning commission members.
Okay.
All right.
Second.
I have a second. Do we have any further discussion? All right, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
I'll tell you what, nobody can question the transparency of this council.
Ziploc
Yep.
bags, baby,
It's an
Ziploc
open book,
bags.
baby. Thank you.
Mayor, before you move on, and I hate to belabor this one, is it still mayor and mayor pro tem as representing council on this?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Brian. Okay, moving on. Can we move on? All right, let's move on. Moving forward. Let's cover council comments.
There we go.
And not going with tradition again, Councilman Shirley.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, thank you for whoever was responsible for the new chairs. They're very comfortable, I can see over the board tonight, and I really appreciate that, thank you. I am grateful for, Charlie, in your comments for addressing the creek and the alleged runoff into Nivens Creek. Understanding that that runoff area is private property, like you said, either HOA or privately held properties, or Duke or whoever owns that property. I guess I would want to know 2 things. I would want to know what obligation, if any, does the city have? You don't have to answer this tonight, but maybe a discussion for another day. What obligation does the city have or not have in terms of responsibility to what goes in that creek? And second, what follow-up can we have in terms of correspondence with our residents? If I remember correctly, about a year ago or so, I thought I remembered that we were in these meetings that someone was responsible for taking notes on council comments and then corresponding with those folks that gave us public comments, excuse me. And I don't know where we are in that process, if we're responding to public comments or if we have a format for that. Can you give me some feedback
If there are
on that?
questions that are posed, that we make sure that the appropriate staff member that has the answers for those questions responds back directly to that specific resident. If council wants to be included on those communications, technically we can. But as far as your first point, as far as responsibilities, the city as an MS4 is responsible for enforcing the regulations as it pertains to the development. The city is not responsible for what happens as far as stream degradation, erosion through a natural process. That's not a responsibility of the cities. I think I put this in a communication to council, but a few years ago, we actually had a meeting with Duke Shoreline Management. We can't get a permit, even if we wanted to go dredge that area. Duke will not issue it at all
No, I'm not saying that we should. I'm just wondering if we have
Right.
any liability there and
So,
if we should
yeah.
visit that. I'll move on. Thank you for your response to that. I would ask, Charlie, I would ask that maybe we revisit that correspondence process to public comments, because it sounded like there was at least one person that shared the premise that they'd not been communicated with about bringing public comments last month.
I did address Mr. Machunas before he left, and I can forward the email to council. An email was sent. Unfortunately, the recipient address auto-populated to his former council email.
Got it.
And the staff
Okay.
person didn't realize that.
Fair enough.
I have now forwarded that communication.
I'm
on
not
the
pointing
Gus, but
fingers.
yeah.
Please don't hear what I'm not saying. I just want to make sure we are communicating
100%.
with folks on that. The, want to encourage our residents, again, I mentioned it earlier, but please hear me on this. There are committee seats that are available on committees that serve the city well. Planning Commission, Economic Development, Parks and Recs, and others. And I'm very grateful for the folks that sit on those committees and provide valuable feedback to the city staff and also to council to make important decisions for the city. So please consider throwing your hat in the ring. Check our website, see what of those seats are available, and take advantage of that. The stormwater appointments, I agree with Councilman Heislip that we'll probably just go ahead and renew those. And Heather, thanks for your feedback on that, what you brought to our attention as well. Last thing I'll say is there was a pretty big sports event that happened about a week and a half ago, and I know how to spell Eagles. Is it E-L-G-S, E-S, Eagles? Okay. Fly, Eagles, fly. Thank you.
Okay, now, we'll go to Councilman Carr.
Yes.
I was ready.
Oh, Carmen was ready. You can go if you want, Carmen. Okay. All right, well, thank you. I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you for everyone who is in attendance this evening and everyone that is watching online. As usual, appreciate that and appreciate you guys staying the entire meeting. I want to thank everybody that spoke for public comments this evening. I want you guys to know that your voices are heard, and like Councilman Shirley said, I do want to follow up with the Nibbins Creek thing and see if there is anything we can do. It sounds like there's really not, but let's talk about that communication and how we get back to that kind of stuff. The pickleball that was stated, how people appreciated what we did with pickleball, and then the TKK Elementary School golf tournament, which I'm really excited about, setting up, so I can't wait for that. I want to thank everybody on city staff and all the department heads for keeping our city running smoothly day in and day out and keeping our community beautiful. They do a wonderful job. I want to thank all the swimmers that were here earlier. I love congratulating 3 championships in a row is absolutely amazing. Want to recognize Turner and then Dominic that were here for their accomplishments as well, and then Coach Cindy for being just amazing for coaching and doing what she does. The last thing I want to do is talk about recognition. I want to talk about positive things that happen in our community. And this person makes a huge impact in TKK with the children and the residents in our community. She heads up multiple programs in our local schools. She heads up fundraising for Camp Cadet, for the TKK Police Department, that the TKK Police Department hosts every summer. And most recently, she was instrumental in getting together our Polar Plunge that took place a couple of weeks ago. We raised over $72,000, which is absolutely amazing for the South Carolina Special Olympics. Because of this person's efforts, she's been recognized and selected as one of 2 officers to represent the South Carolina Special Olympics in Italy for the Special Olympics World Games that are coming up here soon. She'll be one of the many officers from across the globe that will have the privilege to carry the flame of hope, and then we'll be lighting the cauldron, signifying the beginning of the Special Olympics World Games in Turin, Italy, coming up at the end of this month. And that's absolutely amazing. And that person who is part of TKK Police Departments, it's Sergeant Maggie Bowers, and she does an awesome job for our community. If you guys met her, you guys obviously know, but that's why I want to recognize this evening. She is, absolutely. And that's it. That's all I got. She pushed you in the pool. She did push you in the pool.
Yeah. So we can all go to my pool if you guys want to come over. Yeah.
coming this way? All
Coming
right.
that way. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Mayor. Just quickly, police, fire, thanks for all you do as always. And all the staff, I see a lot of stuff going on. We've had a lot of, let's say natural occurrences with storms and rain, and I see them out there just working their butts off. Thank you for all you do. I happened to notice that it's Caroline Hasty's birthday, so I want to give a shout out to her. Happy birthday to Caroline. She does a great job with our events. I thank the residents for being here, and all the council and the residents. I want to say thank you for indulging me tonight with my concerns. Listen, I wanted to talk it out with you, and thank you for hearing me. And at the end of the day, everything's good. I just wanted, like I said, talk that out. Let's see. I think that's all I got, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Heisler. Mrs. Mayor Pro Tem, if you would, please.
Got nothing.
Sure you don't.
Yeah, exactly. I had an opportunity to attend the fire department ceremony this last weekend, and to see all of that, all of our firemen dressed up in their uniforms and go through that, that process of celebrating each other and their accomplishments. It was kind of a really proud moment to look around and see that there was so much professionalism and care that was presented there, and the recognition that Chief Hasty had for each one of his fire members was really inspiring, and I was really happy to have been a part of that. They are doing, I think Charlie said it on his in his comments, the story time, and I have somebody to bring to story time now, so I'm planning on attending. He doesn't understand yet, but he's coming. So I'm excited that, and I hope that they get a lot of really good attendance, because there's some good connections that happen between kids and our first responders with those opportunities. There is also times where the fire department and police department have their open houses where they have an opportunity to talk to residents about what is happening in the city, and what the things they are seeing, what they are doing, how they're utilizing their resources, and those are really, really good conversations. It's a lot of like what Tom and I do when we do our chats. It's just an open forum of question answers and conversations. It's good. It's a good time to get to know who's leading those departments and get to know the guys that are and gals that are part of that. And it kind of brings that city feel back to being more at home. Also, let's see, what else did I have? Oh, committees, same thing that Scott said. Please volunteer. Please look at those opportunities. With our normal standing committees, as well as this comp plan, as I said before, it is such a huge deal to be part of what is going to move us forward versus hindsight, that back view of what didn't work and how we, were processing through all that. This is a forward. So please consider being a part of that and being the voice for the people around you, right? It isn't so much that we're asking you to think about what you want and how is what you want going to influence, but how is it that what you can bring to the table, what your neighbors want, what the parents at the softball fields are talking about, how things are influencing your neighborhood, the new developments that have come on board. We don't know the day-to-day of how that works for you, but you do. You know how it affected your next door neighbor, how it affected the traffic that you have to go through to drive your kids to school. So bring that with you so that we can make a really, really good plan going forward. Because there's nothing worse than hindsight, right? When you can't fix something. As far as how much I appreciate the time and effort that all of staff does, look at these guys. They're still here, and we're still talking. I do appreciate the fact that y'all are still here and I'm still talking. I had an opportunity to meet with Antonio from TCUD a couple weeks ago. Hugely impressed by what he put forward and the care that he has in what he's trying to accomplish for that department. So I wanted you guys to know that there is an incredible amount of talent in our department heads that are leading each one of these areas, and I've been really proud to get to know them better. That is it. Oh, chat with council on the 27th, 6:30, and Chief Crosby, if we can have it at the training room again, that would be awesome. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor Pro Tem. And that brings it to me. Folks, we have some winter weather coming our way. I would say if you do not need to be on the roads, please do not be on the roads tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Stay home with your folks and your family, light a fire, get some stew going, have a good time. Maybe watch a highlight reel of the Super Bowl. I know that's what Scott will be doing.
There's a lot of them.
But please, stay at home, stay safe. First responders, our PD, our fire department, that just, you guys just keep doing an outstanding job. Thank you for the detective work that we've done in the past few weeks, Chief. They did an outstanding job once again. Dustin, it is the season again. I appreciate your staff and everyone for the programming that you provide. You know, folks, we have the best sports programming for our children in the area, and it shows. And I'd like to thank the coaches, you know, and our staff that they put forth a tremendous effort every year for our kids, and it just shows. It also shows the commitment and the level that you guys go to for our kids, and it's incredible. I'd like to thank the rest of our staff, our maintenance guys that are out there busting their tails every day to get the storm debris cleaned up and everything looking good again. Because it won't be too long, and it'll be summer, and everybody will be out. So we're trying to get all of that together before folks get out and start enjoying the weather again. And I'd like to thank council. Thank you so much for the discussion tonight and the way it went. I really appreciate the open candor, and I appreciate everybody's opinions and thoughts. I will say, you know, we're right around the corner for spring. Folks, if your children have an electric scooter, an electric motorbike, an electric whatever it is, please go over some safety with them. Let them know that it's not cool to be running full force on the trails. It is not cool to run full force on the sidewalks. And it is also illegal to do so on a motorcycle or an electric bike. Please refer to our South Carolina State Code of Laws for that, because you know, we've got some folks that have been hit. We've had some folks that have gotten hurt, and folks that have near misses, and we really don't need to have that with the kids and their electric scooters. I appreciate them wanting to have fun and them wanting to be just laissez-faire on every street and corner we've got. But you also need to respect the pedestrians and respect the folks that are there on those trails as well. You know, be a TKN, and being a TKN is respecting all folks that are using facilities, and make sure that you are not endangering them or yourselves. So just be a good steward. And with that, I'll say if anybody needs anything, let me know. That's what council is here for, to help you, and that includes staff and everybody else. So if you would, just give us a call, drop us an email, and let us know. And in that, our next big thing on the schedule is going to be the Best Damn Food Festival, March the 10th, or May the 10th. So everybody come out and help us celebrate, and it will be a great time as it was last year. And happy birthday to Miss Hasty as well. So in that, I would ask for a motion to
Mr.
adjourn.
Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I've got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are in adjournment.